Is there? I don't know. Might be.
All
They
right.
bought a lot of expensive crap around it.
We are here live with Glenn PP Milligan. If you don't know who Glenn is, maybe give the brief rundown on who you are and what you've done in the BMX world.
Ooh, okay. Well, my name is Glenn PP Milligan, as you said. It's Glenn Patrick Peter Milligan. People always ask what the PP is. There was for a few years an entire section of Pennsylvania that called me Glenn Piss Pocket Milligan, but that is incorrect. It is Glenn Patrick Peter Milligan, and yeah, my history in BMX, like everyone, started riding. But I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. I got into making videos. We made some videos locally out in the Bronx at the Mullally skate park, and then from there, well, there was other things like 20-inch Video Magazine would pick up some footage from me and things like that, and it kind of like sparked like a, oh man, if I could do this for a living or just do this, that I wasn't even thinking about living. I was just thinking like if I could travel and do it. But ended up hooking up with Rick Malterno at some point in there through Bass Brooklyn as well. Made a bunch of the Bass videos, and then from with Standard, kind of just blasted out into into BMX industry world, right, so to speak. So several years with Standard, and then Ride BMX was looking for someone. Utah Ryan had just stopped making videos there, and they loved still continuing to do video projects. So I got a call from Mark Losi and Todd Toth and Brad McDonald over there, and then I was there for years and years and years. And then after that, it was like Primo, Demolition, whenever I could help out and work with other people, I would. Like at one point, I edited the Fit Puerto Rico video just because, Robbie had like Wiz and Bob on the trip, but he wanted to be involved in the editing, so he did it in SoCal. So he did it like at the ride office at late night, that type of thing. But those are always weird. Like, it's so different now, right? Because like back in the day, it was always about the video you made, right? And like you didn't really have too much of that where someone shot it, someone edited.
Oh yeah.
Whereas like now, I'd say that's more of the way it works for a lot of people. But back then it was different. So like I never claimed like Fit Puerto Rico because I wasn't on the trip. I just edited. So I feel like I have nothing to do with that, sort of. But it's nice to be a part of it, or at least see it before everyone else. It's just kind of exciting too.
Yeah. It's weird whenever you see someone's editing reel and like it's like, what am I watching? Like,
oh, I could go on. So I have to hire people all the time. I can go on about that for months because sometimes like, dude, this just happened to me the other day. In the middle of someone's fucking weird editing reel, they had an Iron Man 3 from the movie clip in there, and then I'm like, you didn't fucking work on Iron Man 3. No fucking way. And if you did, you were like an intern maybe, but there was no way you were on the editing team, because the rest of this stuff's all like them shooting fucking birds at the beach and shit. So I'm like, there's no way, But yeah, editing reel's a hard one, I think. And it's funny you say that because I did just hire a guy for a small job because his editing reel was so weird. And I thought, that's great because at least he's not showing me the same old bullshit. He's showing me like hard things to do, even though it was like a little bizarre-ish. It like shows, oh, this guy can actually edit things, So
yeah, that's really funny, and it's a funny thing because I have thought about that before.
Editing reels are funny.
Yeah. So you've done all of that stuff in BMX. I guess for anyone who still might not know, what are the most notable videos that you did?
Ooh, that could be perspective because I'll say this
before
I say the names. Yeah, because before I say names, like I'm always surprised. Like sometimes people hit me with like, I wouldn't say obscure video, but like a video I didn't think was that big, but then they'll be like, that was my favorite video. I watched it every single day, and I'm like, no way. Especially with the ride videos, right? Because like I think, if that was the first video you ever got, it would be really special to you, right? Mm-hmm. But it's not necessarily me. But if you had already been riding and saw 100 videos, maybe that video fell somewhere in the middle for the average person. But anyway, but to your question, I would definitely say the most known videos would have to be going back further would be the Standard Domination, Base Neighborhood Superheroes, and then more recent years would have been like Drop the Hammer, and then I'd say the Nike 6.0 video. As far as full length projects. Although the first Demolition should be in there as well with Chris Bennett's part and things like that. Yeah.
What a resume.
It's all over the place, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's sick. The range of people who are in all of those different videos is wild to think about that alone.
Oh yeah, it's definitely insane. And to be honest, like it's still crazy to me, right? Because like, the time I grew up in New York, there was no industry in New York. So like anyone who was in magazines or pros and videos, that shit was like it might as well have been Mars. It just seemed so far away. It wasn't like we were going to meet these people. It wasn't like we were going to bump into them. But then oddly enough, you'd have like the random Dennis McCoy who would come to Manhattan all the time, right? Rick Thorne would come to New York all the time. Mira was in New York City quite a bit actually too.
Wow.
Usually for meetings and stuff. Like I don't know, maybe you know this. I don't know who knows these things because of different eras. But there's a ledge in Midtown New York that people called the Mira Ledge. And it's not because he grinded it, it's because he was eating in the restaurant and these dudes were riding it and he came out to talk to them. So then that became the Mira Ledge, right? Like, which is super funny, but it also makes sense. Like Mira, a lot of the brands and people he dealt with, he'd have meetings in New York. So he'd fly up to New York from North Carolina, things like that,
Yeah, that's how much of a legend Mira was. He didn't even have to touch it with his bike for it to be named after him.
He just showed up and it became his name.
Honestly, that is like the perfect transition to one of the big things I wanted to talk to you about tonight, because that sounds like exactly like the kind of thing that you'd say in one of these Instagram videos you've been making. Dave Mira is such a legend that he didn't even have to touch this ledge in New York to have him named after him.
100% correct, yes.
Is it still there, first, before I get into this?
That's a good question. I couldn't 100% say, but I would imagine it is. Someone would have to chime in with a comment if the Mira Ledge is still there, but it should be. It should be. I'm going to be in New York in about a month. I might look now
on
because
location.
Now it's going to be in my head.
You have a segment where you're on location.
Yeah.
But the videos that you've been making are honestly why I hit you up, because for anyone who hasn't seen them, you've been making these videos talking about like little snippets of time and people within BMX. Like you did one on Scotty, and it's escaping me the other people, but the one Scotty's the one that jumps out to me now. And you're kind of just like featuring these people in a quick segment, educating. So I just want to hear like where that came from.
Yeah.
And like just about it.
Yeah. It's like, to be honest too, very honestly, it's not fully thought out. There's a few things though, but I'll give it to you. So for a while I've been posting, like every once in a while I'll post like old clips because first of all, it's fun. Every once in a while I find an old hard drive and I think like, oh, I should just put this out, and especially stuff like Mira, right? But then when you look at Mira, the kind of heartbreaking part and the honest to God shitty part of it is you're remembering someone that I wish we could remember while they were still here,
Yeah.
So then it just started clicking in my head like, oh, I have all these different, like you said too, like wild resume of different people and eras. So it's like, I'm like, it'd be cool to put some of this out. But I don't have this shit very well documented. Like it is really like boxes of tapes. And then there's a bunch of hard drives that some of the stuff's been transferred on. And then recently I was using one of those services with like my old VHS tapes, because every time I try to transfer them myself, the VCRs are breaking and the tapes are a little shitty. So I've been sending them into a place, but it's a little pricey. So I do like 10 tapes at a time, and I've done like probably about 45 tapes now. But so now I have all these different eras. So they're sporadic. Like, so for instance, those videos you're talking about, I shot, like I did all that on a Sunday night, I just not the whole editing, but just definitely the speaking. And I just based on like a folder of different clips I had, and it worked out kind of nice because it was it was like Rick Thorne, who's like one era, and then Scotty, completely different time frame, and then this one John Heaton gap, and then just fuck with Fudger a little bit with two slams I had. So it's just like jumping around, which I think is nice too, because like, for me, getting into BMX in the first place, like I started as a flatlander, and when I started, everything was very segmented more so. Like if you rode flat, you hung out like at a flat spot. You didn't hang out the ramps. It wasn't the way it was. There wasn't so much like, it wasn't mixed together as much. And then slowly over the years with street riding, I'd say things converged a little more, and riders just hung out with riders. Maybe more so back then. I don't know. You can make the argument both ways. But I always liked that there was like different people and then styles and things that I would never like give a shit to ride, but other people do,
Yeah.
So like I love that, like the differences in the people and the styles and how they do their thing, because it really is like, to me, that's what makes BMX awesome, and to me that's also what made videos awesome back in the day. While your favorite guy might be Van Holm and mine might be Garrett Burns, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then that Little Devil video is great for both of us, so that type of thing.
Yeah, and it would seem that with everything you've done, you will have a literal endless catalog for as long as you want to do them.
If I keep those videos around 45 seconds to a minute, I could probably do it for a very long time.
Yeah, and have you thought about uploading those as like shorts on YouTube?
Yeah. Actually, it's funny. A couple people have hit me up and they've even asked, like, "Where's your YouTube channel?" It's funny because I wasn't thinking in those terms so much at first. And one thing I was gonna do is, like, I don't know if, like, I used to do this thing called the Big Big BMX Show.
Oh, we're gonna talk about it.
Okay. But like I was actually thinking about doing some new ones, but I was like, I don't know if I have the time to commit to all of it. And then also, like, it's like, to be honest, like, I'm an older guy, so I feel like, who the fuck wants to see this old man talking about someone else's tricks? But if I'm talking about old school stuff, it's kind of like, it's age fitting, age appropriate, I should say. So for me, it's like, and I can roll that stuff right off my tongue, and what I mean, I know, and it sounds really silly, but if you've ever seen the Chappelle Show and they had the Charlie Murphy Real Hollywood Stories,
oh yeah,
they were like one of my favorite ideas of all times, and I just think more people should jump on that. And like, I don't think that I'm anywhere nearly as good as them, but I like the idea that you can give out a tidbit that no one knew. You know what I mean? It's like super fun, because even just like the John Heaton Gap one the other day, just the idea of like, oh, he fucking ate shit on this thing and said he was going to do it and came back and did it, and we have those two moments, like, that's cool. Like, if I can whenever I can find that type of stuff, that's what I want to put out there.
Yeah, dude, you should, even if you don't like make it a formal YouTube channel or anything, you should just upload it as a short and let it live on YouTube too, because Instagram buries everything. You can't search for it.
Yeah. And but the other thing with Instagram that is driving me nuts is I'd actually rather these things as posts because of the archiving, but not as many people see it, right?
Right,
so, like,
exactly.
That's a rough thing. Like, I don't care about, I don't care how many fucking likes I get on it, but I want more people to see it. That's for sure. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So, but if I put it on a post, I can see very clearly, like, when I put a post up, how much less numbers it really sees versus a reel, because a reel goes through so many other people's pages, right?
Right. Yeah, it's exactly how Instagram is structured these days, and you can make it show up as in your like profile grid, but it doesn't. It's not the same thing.
It's not the same thing. Yeah, and I struggle with that, because I also don't want to, like, I don't mind uploading it to other places. I mean, for YouTube, it could be cool, because then maybe I could string like a few of them together after I have a few, and that's a little bit more interesting, right? Because like, it depends, I guess.
Well, what I'm gonna say is, if you're gonna do an episode of the Big Big BMX Show, we should do like a segment that I put in, like the thing I do, that will introduce, like, bring it together. I'm
down. No, I'm down for something like that too. Look, here's another thing, because back in the day when I did that, like, I did that 100% myself, and every once in a while someone would kind of help me with it, but really that was like me in an apartment doing it all myself. And I'm sure you understand, because you seem to be very one-man army. But like, it's like, and it's like, it's great and it's fun, but it does get, like, if you don't have someone else to lean on or to work with, it just starts becoming like, it's a little
job
hard to do. Yeah, and especially when it's like, it'd be great if it paid the bills, but it doesn't. So it's like, it's for fun. So then it becomes like, well, I'll get to it next week, and then next week becomes 3 weeks, and then suddenly you're off schedule. So as long as I can commit to like a good schedule, I would. There's a good consideration for it, I would say.
All I'm saying is, I would love to just have one thing, and that's why I do them live now. Is that I used to produce it to where I would write out all my notes on the whole page, and then I would go through. That was the night before. Then the next morning I would record it, and then I would edit it and get it all done to have it done by Friday at 3:30. Yeah. And then I realized one day, I'll just watch the videos and then talk about them directly after, instead of talking about everything at once. And then one day it was like, wait a minute, idiot. Do it live, and you don't have to edit anything.
That is actually better, I think, because like what you just described is like giving me flashback nightmares, and I didn't
Yeah.
mind doing it, but like I'm sure you know, like I don't know what it is, but when you write these things out and then you go to say them, sometimes when you hear it back, you're like, oh, that's wrong. So you start saying something different than what you wrote, and it creates this like brain fart where you get stuck on things
What did I
sometimes.
say? Oh no!
Yeah, yeah,
How
and
did I
and
introduce
then you
this?
get
What did I
locked into
do?
weird things. And at least
Oh.
live, it's just like you gotta keep going no matter what. If you completely
Mm.
fuck it up, you just have to come out with. You have to end the sentence somewhere, you know?
Yep, and you have no choice, and it's helped a lot, and it's turned a like an entire day's worth of work into I take 20 minutes to type out everything I'm going to talk about and put it in the order, and then I do it live in 20 minutes after I take an hour to watch all the videos. So it's like
Yeah,
it's
that's way better. Yeah,
two
yeah, yeah.
hours of work and to from being like a whole 8 hours worth of doing stuff.
Yeah, it is amazing. It is amazing how that works.
Yeah, but the Big Big BMX Show is definitely something I wanted to bring up to talk about because like me and you are like the only people who did it for a consistent length of time, and you used the green screen, you talk about videos, and it was kind of a similar thing. It's just I don't know,
Yeah, yeah.
it's cool to me.
Thanks. Yeah, well, it's a funny thing too because like when I first did it, and this isn't to talk shit on people who said it, but like so many random people would come up to me and go like, "Oh, I thought of that too," and I'm like, "Yeah, I didn't think of it anyway because it was on Tosh.0 first, and there's probably 5 other clip shows before
Mm-hmm.
that." It's like all I did was say like, "Oh, I'll do it in BMX," same as everyone, right? So it was always
Yeah.
weird. People kind of came up like to make it a point of being like, "That wasn't original," like. Yeah, I know that. Like
Right.
it's really not the thing. But I always thought, the Big Big BMX Show, to me, the only bummer is I wish it could have done more with it because I do think there's something cool about aggregating a bunch of things online into one place,
Yeah.
because I think for all of us, even the people who we know tons of people online, we're following all the different sites, it's still hard to see it all, like I'll just talk to someone like I could talk to like Biz is a great example. If I talk to Biz, he'll tell me something that I just didn't see because
Yeah.
he sees everything, and
Yep.
then and I'm just like shit, like there is no place for that anymore. And that's kind of like one of the biggest bummers about like magazines in a sense being gone. Not so much the physical paper of it, but I think that sucks too. But like the fact that we don't have a place that just aggregates everything, like so we
Yeah.
can kind of see it all in one place. I know like our BMX is doing that to a degree, and there's places, but it just doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't feel the same as much anymore.
Yeah, it's
Maybe I'm
definitely.
wrong. Maybe I'm just old.
No, you're absolutely right. It's definitely not the same thing. There's only one website out there right now that's literally just posting like everything. And it's BMX Union. Kurt at BMX Union will literally post everything. And he's got like 5 other jobs. I don't know how he does it.
Yeah, yeah, it's a big thing. You definitely have to be committed, and
Oh
that
yeah.
which is, it's definitely it goes back to the old question of is it a sport or a lifestyle? It's definitely a lifestyle,
Oh
with
yeah.
sport.
Yeah, depending on who you are, it definitely is a lifestyle, and more for those people who it's a lifestyle, it's just an obsession.
Yeah, yeah. No, it is. Cause, dude, I struggle with this now because like my job has nothing to do with BMX necessarily, right? But then
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe all these years later, like honest to God, like I can't believe all these years later, after making tons of BMX videos, after being part of the industry for years, like I still want to do it. Like making those videos, like I don't care about if I get a free T-shirt from a company anymore. Although that's nice always if anyone wants to DM me. But I don't. That's not that's not where it is anymore, right? Like
Yeah.
it really is. Like I just want to share this shit. I want people to see it. Like I
Yep.
thought it was fucking awesome that homeboy. I can't even think of his name now. Now I feel bad. Mountain biker BMXer who he jumped off the same gap that Heino jumped off of. You probably know. God,
Are you
I
talking?
just had his name.
God, I don't know. Are you talking
Really
about
good
Dylan
mountain biker
Stark?
from Southern California. He does all these huge gaps. He's a BMX dude first. Oh, fuck, I can't think of his name.
Dylan
I feel
Stark?
like a jerk now because I even mentioned him in the post of Heino jumping off. It's Heino off of the roof onto that big brick bank.
Are you talking about Dylan Stark?
Yeah, thank you. God, I'm so dumb.
I said it twice.
Yeah, you've had him on. You've had him on.
No, I haven't, but
Wait, you haven't?
uh-uh.
Why did I think you did? Or maybe I just watched something with him and
Maybe
I
I
thought it was you.
should.
What's that?
I said maybe I should.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, but my point is like he just did this thing that like Heino did a long time ago. Completely different setups anyway with mountain bikes, but
Yeah.
like some people would look at that as like like there's different ways to look at it. Let's just say that. But I thought it was awesome, and then when I saw that, I was like, fuck, I want to put the Heino thing out because I also want people to know that 22 years ago, someone did that on a BMX bike with no shocks. That's
Absolutely.
fucking bananas, and no
Yep.
gear. Like not I won't get into the helmet conversation because I think that's everyone's personal preference, right? But
Mm-hmm.
Heino wasn't going to wear helmets on street back then, right? Because that was just the era of no way, for that
Yeah.
stuff. And there's so much more of a risk, and it was like, and we were there like very scrappy. We didn't have extra people. We didn't get a car inside the gate. We were like, I mean, there's so many things that could have gone wrong with that whole deal. Not to mention, it was only one camera, so it was like, oh, I can miss this,
Yeah.
which was really terrible.
God, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that want to do it that's driven by your love for BMX is what I recognized in the videos you were making that made me want like I need to talk to Glenn. I need
Well,
to
thank
talk
you.
to
I
him
appreciate it.
as I feel like when having people who still have that much passion and love for BMX after being in it for so long is like there's a small group of us that are that way, and we are all like we're all buddies, like
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
absolutely. And uh damn it, I don't know where I was going with that, but I just think it's
No,
sick.
no,
I
but
just wanted to
I'll
talk
I'll
about it.
follow I'll follow up I'll follow up for you because it's an interesting thing too because like in one sense it's like when I hear you say it I'm like, well, how can anyone not? Because like
Yep.
I definitely I've seen some dudes get raw deals as far as like their sponsors and just getting screwed over by companies and things like that. But at the same time, like outside of that industry shit, and that's the other interesting thing. I think when you walk away from the industry side or the business side of it, which is hard sometimes too, but like when you do, it's like, oh, this is just at its heart a really amazing thing. Like I know I'm a smarter person because I rode BMX. Like that's the best way I can put it. Like
Yeah.
and not that I'm a genius, but I know my life is so much better because of it. Like I met people in different countries and and
Mm-hmm.
that spoke different languages, and I learned different cultures, and I learned just dealing with different people in the States. It was just a big thing, right? Think about even just racers, kids who go on the weekends, like instead of just staying in their town, now they're going 3 states over and they're meeting people in another place and they're getting these experiences. Like that
Yep.
stuff you can't you can't substitute that kind of life experience, and then on top of it, sneaking into a school, avoiding cops and security guards, and then all that stuff on top of it, or finding spots. Now, like Jeff Z always says, black rainbows. You see wall ride spots.
Oh yeah.
Everyone knows when there's a wall ride spot because we know the markings, right? It's like
Yeah.
tribal. It's the best.
Yep. And uh god damn it, the chat's distracting me. We got to talk later about whether or not you still ride.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
But that love for it and everything, that how can you not attitude, and I think you're gonna probably relate to this, led to a if I don't do it, who will attitude when it comes to videos.
Yeah.
Like if I don't cover this thing or I don't go to this jam and I don't film whatever happens, and no one else is going to do it, and that means while yes, it's amazing to live in the moment, it's also amazing 15 years later to go back and watch these videos from these events or this day. And I just felt a responsibility personally from like a long time ago, even before I had this YouTube channel, to document this stuff so that other people could see it later. Does that something you relate with at all?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I think especially when I started, because I can honestly say, the, with the exception of props, which I knew who props were, the guys at props, but I didn't know that they were making money doing it, right?
Mm,
So like when I first started shooting, like let's say the New York contest at Malali, I just wanted other people to see them. That's
yeah.
all I cared about, The happy kind of like byproduct of that was it led to kind of a career in video, but which was amazing, but wasn't the plan. There was no plan there at all. It was like, oh, I need people to see this, right? And then same thing, actually, very honestly, with the Big Big BMX Show. It was like an idea I had, and I tried to explain it to a couple of people, and they weren't really hearing it. And it
Yeah.
was just like, I just remember it was like right after a Christmas break. I was just like, I'll just shoot this shit myself. I know I could do it. And I just did an episode, and I was so scared when the first one went up, right? Because
Yeah.
prior to that, I probably only spoke on camera 2 or 3 times and put it online, and that was in the BMX boards days.
Ooh.
And I don't know if you remember that, but that was all anonymous chat. So that was like brutal as fuck. Like, it was the most brutal shit of all time.
Yeah.
So people say the rudest, meanest things that to this day I still remember some of the comments, you know?
No holding back.
No, none.
And that's part of where like my BMX news thing came from too, is that like there were people who were doing it sporadically. There was a couple different channels that had people who would talk about BMX news, but then I would watch every single one of them. Like, they'd miss 1 week, then another, then it's 2 months between things. And I was like, at a time where I'm trying to like grow my stuff and like just do everything I can and post every single day. I was like, what's an easy thing I can do to get a video? I was like, well, we'll talk about the news. And then that responsibility to, if I don't do it, who else will, kicked in. So I've literally done, I just checked the date. The first one I ever did was December 29th of 2017. And I've missed like only a couple Fridays in that entire period of time.
Wow, that's impressive. I didn't go that far, because I had the gap. Even in the first few weeks I had the gap some, because of trips and things like that. But yeah, that's really impressive.
It's just like, as you're saying, you just want people to see it, and you want people to be able to come to this one place and aggregate everything together so that things can go out there. And that's essentially like the Big BMX Show was that to a degree.
Wanted it to be, but I agree, and I think it's still so important. I think BMX does seem to need more of that, because it's the only way that the industry can kind of get a foothold again, right? Because otherwise it's always sporadic, and it's like, you know, how do you start a new company and really get noticed now? Because you can't even jump in with the big guys, because there's no place to jump in with them, really, right? You're jumping into the world, which is like too big, you know. You need to jump into like a BMX world, but what is that, right? It's hard to, you know.
I get it. And even doing that, if you're just going to jump into, I'm going to make BMX stuff now, that immediately means, one, you're going to have catalog parts as your only parts, because you didn't start with an idea that you had to create a unique thing.
Right.
So, like, that makes it even harder in itself.
Yeah.
So, like, but then you take a look at if you do have a unique idea and creating something, how insanely difficult it is to do that today.
Yeah, no, it seems almost impossible, because I will say I flip through a lot of Instagram and I see so many things that I'm like, oh man, like I thought of that. Nope. You know, like, it's just not the case. Everything's been done in some way, shape, or form, but you can always make it somewhat unique, I guess, you know.
Oh, definitely. It's hard. And
yeah, definitely hard.
And I talked with Robbie and Ronnie, and I did an interview with both of them, and Robbie straight up said, like, 2022 is going to be a survival year for people. So that's another thing that makes it even harder.
Yeah, that's scary when you hear him say it, because, you know, you would imagine his company doesn't have to worry too much about survival, right? With the popularity, you would think, oh, that's not really even affecting him, but it does make sense that it would, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but back to the Big Big BMX Show.
Yeah.
So you did all of it from an apartment, and you did several seasons of it. But how did your mindset work when it came to going into that?
Yeah, well, it was a couple things, right? Like, it was always important to me that when we did it, we gave something away, because I did like that format, and I thought that was fun. Mm-hmm. It also it engaged comments, like, because then ultimately everyone's cheating, right? Because, like, it's like it was always like 3 questions, and then once the first 4 or 5 people got it, everyone just cut and pasted.
Oh yeah.
But it was also nice to see people try, and every once in a while you get people who just didn't care and they write like stupid answers, which are probably my favorite answers of all time. Probably should have just gave someone the free parts from that. But it really was all about give back, because it was like, first thing, it was a way of saying, like, all right, let's like aggregate a few things together. But I always wanted to throw in a random, which gets hard, right? Because like you're always like, even though everyone bitches about the Instagram algorithms, I will too. But we all have our own algorithms, right? We have our set like friends and the people we communicate with the most. And I'm sure even for you doing this, it's hard to get outside of the circle that right? Because it's just like and really bringing that spread out. So when I always tried to focus on that, because then it always made me kind of go another place. And it was good. The good part about with doing it with Vital was the guy over there that did advertising, Todd Toth, he was very excited about it. So he'd always try to bring in new sponsors, which in a way also brought in kind of a new angle, right? Because I think Snafu sponsored one when
Alienation.
Well, Alienation was Alienation's. What's funny about Alienation? I was just thinking about this. So Rob Morgan was a good friend of mine, when he had sponsored it, but at the same time, I had taken a tour and shot in the Alienation. Well, I shot Sun Ringley one time, but I had known the Alienation guys through that. So I always had known about him, you know what I mean? So from back filming the Streeties, going way far back, So it's funny, I always knew what that company was, but exactly that. And then that always gave the opportunity of someone else that I wouldn't normally put in for whatever reason to be in, which I like that, you know what I mean? Because I think it's a little maniacal for anyone to think oh, I know everything in BMX. I think the more you scratch the surface, the more you realize there's these other facets of different people, and it's always changing. So it's, it never ends really.
Yeah. And so one thing that exists now that didn't exist at the time of doing the Big Big BMX Show is Instagram and social media, and everyone being able to you go on Instagram and you're going to see 1,000 things that you will never see on any of these media websites from people that you've never heard of before. So that's something I haven't even tried to delve into.
Yeah, no, it's trippy. And then I'm sure this, because there's a bunch of us that are like this. I think a lot of people who ride for a while know this. It's you literally know who someone is just by their riding style. You can watch a video and see someone drop in on a ramp and you're like, oh, that's so-and-so. Mm-hmm. But it's funny to me now scrolling through Instagram, because every once in a while I'll see someone do something, I'll be like, oh, that's so-and-so. And I'm like, wait a second, that guy hasn't ridden in 5 years. That can't be so-and-so. Yeah. And then I'm like, oh shit, that's a new person, which is to your point, exactly it. There's just so many new people. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And really good new people.
Seriously. It's incredible to see all of the random people, which I think is an awesome thing about that Our BMX Clips thing that they've been doing, is that it's all these random people that you're seeing doing, the dude who did the nose manual up the stairs. Everybody saw that. Crazy. But who was that guy before? I had no idea who that was, and then he did that, and it was the entire BMX world was whoa, this dude's wild.
And when I saw that clip, all I could think was, I can't believe no one's done that before. Not taken away from that person, but that just seems like something someone would have accidentally done and then redid, But it's amazing. You don't think there's new things, but there always is. It never stops,
Yeah, I think that's probably how everything new ends up being, is there's always going to be somebody who's I can't believe that never happened before. It seems so obvious.
Yeah.
So now that you've let the cat out of the bag of potentially filming another Big Big BMX Show, we should hold you to that for at least one this year.
So I'll tell you the truth though. I have this thought about it, and if I do it, it's going to be it's a few, like a minimum of 3, because it has to be a series. I don't want to do a one-off, because I did that on the come up at one point with that 22, and it really bothered me that we only did one. You know what I mean? And it was no one's fault. It was really just timing, because I think he was down, but it was just it just didn't work out.
Yeah.
So, if I did it, it has to be it's I'm gonna go into it like it's a trilogy, at least three or something.
Well, I mean, you could even take an approach of doing something like what you're doing now, but with new stuff, where you're oh, this crazy thing happened. It's a minute-long clip, and then at the end of the week, I'm making more work for you, but or the end of the month or whatever, you put them together, and then there's your video.
No, yeah, you're totally right. I totally could. Yeah, and that's the other thing. I have a lot of different thoughts on formatting and everything because to your point exactly, it was different then because it was like pulling web clips, which were all YouTube and Vimeo at the time, and
Mm-hmm.
then pulling it, it would be. I would imagine 99% of it would just come from Instagram. There'd be no reason to go anywhere else.
Yep.
But like so to me that makes it an Instagram platform right there. But then there's that whole thing of post versus reels because if you make it, I would try to make those things as short as possible, but they would just always inherently go like 5 to 10 minutes,
Yeah.
Which, and when you think of a 5 to 10 minute video now, it's like, when you go to click on that, you're like, I don't want to fucking watch 5 minutes of anything. Although you'll sit and watch a movie or a TV show, but you don't watch videos that long, right? So I don't know. So there's a little bit of something I want to work out there, and then vertical. That's another thing I like. If it's everyone's going to see it on a phone, so it might as well be vertical format. Square
Mm-hmm.
square will be okay too, but I would definitely lean towards that. Even though obviously I come from a very traditional. Well, really, I come from square format, 4x3 anyway, so it's fine.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I'll tell you. I mean, I'm sure you felt that way too the first times. If you ever film vertically, like if you film a BMX thing vertically, dude, it feels wrong.
Oh yeah, it's so hard because you have to be so backed up now and everything to get the whole bike and the scene in, and you definitely because even with those videos I just doing, I want to zoom in more on some of them, but you can't get in there.
Mm-hmm.
You just miss pieces of it, so you gotta bring it back. And I hate putting a little square in the center of everything. Sometimes do like split screen and
Yeah,
stuff, which
yeah.
is cool, but it's not the best.
Yeah, but I'm gonna keep pushing for the YouTube side of that because with the shorts, and then it also lives as something that can be searched out. It and you can make. I think you can even do like series and like put designated as like certain episodes of series on there.
Oh, really? Yeah. No, I've never really messed with it. All right, I'm gonna look. Now you're making me think about this. So this
Hey,
is gonna this is gonna I'll look at it a little bit
that's what I like to hear.
more.
Before talking more about video stuff, though, you mentioned before we went live that there's a mini ramp where you work now and that you try to
Yeah.
ride it. So I take it you do ride still. So let's hear about
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I definitely still ride, and I think it's interesting because I think like with riding, it's weird because I don't know that I'll ever know that I stopped because of the gaps in between, right? Because
Mm,
like I just what 4 years ago? Yeah, no 4 years ago I got a custom standard made. It was trail boss geometry with a shaman frame basically because it was
mm,
like the shaman frame was probably one of my favorite frames that standard ever did. So I just thought it'd be cool to have that now, like
yeah.
as like my last bike, so to speak. And I thought I'll get from Standard because Standard was such a big part of like me kind of coming up, and Standard was a company I just looked up to so much when I started riding, so
Yeah.
it was made so much sense. Um, but yeah, I still ride. I ride a lot by myself. Like I go, there's a couple little skate parks I'll hit in the morning, but definitely not every day. I get on like tangents, right? Like I'll have a week where I ride like every morning for like 4 or 5 days, and then like work comes up, and then it's like 2 3 weeks where I don't. It's like
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely not the same as it used to be, and I'm basically always just relearning stuff I used to do, kind of. And I don't try as hard because I really don't want to get hurt anymore, but I do like but it's funny because sometimes I like drive myself nuts. I'll be like, oh, I should go try something tomorrow. But at the same time, if I go to a little skate park over here and I just pump around manual some stuff, like honest to God, I'm so happy. Like
Yeah.
I'm just good. Like so it doesn't even matter. Like I think about it more beforehand and afterwards, but when I'm actually doing it, yeah, I'm 100% a rider. You know what I mean? But it's such a everything else around it's like weird. And then the mini here is awesome. But I was telling you beforehand, we have at my company, my boss built a 5 foot mini, which is fucking sick. And we have another rider that works here. His name's Andrew Persing, and Andrew's probably watching this actually, probably watching it live, but he'll definitely watch it afterwards too. But shout out to Andy. So Andy's been riding it, and then we got this girl that skates here too. So she's been dropping in, which is nice. And I'll get on it some days. I haven't gotten on it in a couple weeks now, but I plan to get back on it soon. Start doing some morning sessions before work. And we have showers here too, which is nice. So if I get super sweaty, I can just go
Oh,
back.
that's
But
perfect.
but no one would even care if I was sweaty here. They wouldn't even know. I have a small office, so yeah, hot.
Ha! I have a buddy who he kind of fell out of riding for a while, but has gotten back into it. And one thing he said that was seemed pretty cool to me is that he's like stoked getting back into riding because he's like relearning all that stuff like you said, but it's like he's learning it again, and it's making BMX fun to like
Yeah,
learning these tricks, even if he's learning them for a second time, which I thought was cool.
yeah, and dude, it's like the big BMX bikes, right? Like the 26 inches and all that shit. Like,
Mm-hmm.
some people, there's a lot of mixed emotions on that, obviously. But like, what I'll say is like, especially because I've seen it around my neighborhood. Like, I'll see someone on one of those bikes, and it's a guy that's like my age or a little older, and they're fucking psyched. Like, you just see them like skidding at the corner and shit, and you can't hate on that. Like,
No.
that's so dope. Like this guy probably rode BMX. Maybe he was good. Maybe he had nothing to do with it. Maybe he just always wanted to ride BMX. I don't know. But like, the guy just whips the corner, and I'm just like, I'm in my car, like, oh, that's fucking sick. Like
Yeah.
that makes me happy. So it's like, I can only imagine like the joy it re-brings people. And then going out on those rides, like anyone who's ever done any city ride ever in their life knows how much fun that is when you have a large group of people and
Yeah.
you're stopping traffic. So it's like, you can't, that feeling can't be beat. So I see these things, I'm like, oh, they're fucking awesome. I should probably go to some of them, but that stuff I just never end up. I always see the dates like after it happened. I never really see it beforehand.
That's that Instagram algorithm for you.
Yeah, yeah.
Showing you
Totally
the
true.
post 4 days
Dude, I'll see a
later.
post and I'll be like, yeah, oh wait, I'm off this weekend. I'm totally going. And then it's like, oh, that was last weekend. Fuck.
Oh my god. Rollback Rob just gave the best idea ever.
What's that?
BMX legends, where are they now?
That would be great. Listen, all right, so that's a great idea actually. I'll just say that is a really, really good idea. I think there's probably a few that could be incredible. That would
Seriously.
definitely need help because there's some digging up. Because like Rat Boy would be one of the big ones in my mind.
Oh yeah.
Because everyone, and I already know there's a very interesting story. I know Montana Ricky talks to him all the time. So like I know there's like ways to find these people, but
Yeah.
also at the same time, you'd want to do it justice, right? Because that's the other thing. It's got to be done right. And if no one's putting money behind it, that's okay. That doesn't mean it can't be done. It just still means it has to be done with like the right thought, right? But
Yeah.
that's a good idea.
Yeah. I mean, even people like Rat Boy and like Troy McMurray and all these names that are legends who are
Troy
still.
is fucking killing it now.
Yeah.
I was just looking at his Instagram like 2 days ago. I was like, Jesus Christ, this guy still moves really good. Like he's fucking sick.
And but even then, like the legends who had never like faded at all, like Nyquist, do a
That,
where's Nyquist now video, even though everybody already knows where he is.
dude, I'm telling you, that's one of the people I would definitely say like you can never like. You talk about people who are just like people say like, oh, underrated. Nyquist could easily be one of the most underrated riders of all times because of what you just said, because he's hanging in a young man's sport, and
Oh yeah.
he's not just hanging, like he's not like scraping in the back. He can still walk into a contest and kill it if he puts down his best stuff against anyone else's best stuff.
Yep.
He's gonna do well, and he's still so good, like because you still see like a lot of originality within, like I mean he posts on those ramps every day, and it's like you see different shit every day. It's
Oh yeah.
unbelievable.
Yeah. Sometimes like you never know what he's gonna be doing ever.
Yeah. Nyquist is awesome. That's one of my favorite people, and that's like another person. Like, there's a person that I could probably do like 4 or 5 posts on, easy, like
Yeah.
right there.
God, I love it, and it the love for BMX is infectious. I love it.
No,
So
yeah, and it should be like right, and that's an interesting thing you say too, because that happens with the people, because you don't always realize it, but someone like Nyquist, you might just talk to Nyquist, see him in a contest or something, and you'll have a very casual conversation, but you don't get into this deep level of like, oh, how much you love BMX or anything.
hmm.
When you really talk to a dude like that, like he loves it more than you think. You know what I mean? You just think, oh, he executes and he's good and he's cool and he could do dope shit, but no, he has like the same nerd love for BMX that we all do, which is like also infectious. When you hang out and film with someone like that, it's great because you'll see him even try, like he'll start thinking, oh, it'd be cool. What if I did this? What if I did that? Oh, and he'll definitely like brainstorm on his own riding, which you would normally think a guy like that, oh, he's got it all dialed in. You would think like he's already got planned out, but it's
Yeah.
not really the case. He's vibing off of you too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We rode at Woodward West and did a couple different doubles things, and he's like sat in a toothpick and I sat in one of my ice picks, and then he spun the bars for me while I was in the ice pick and he was in the, it's just, and
Yeah.
we were like going back and forth. It's fun like that. The more legend names popping up. You could do one on Hamilton, DMC.
DMC was great. Hamilton, I never filmed with that much, but I knew Steve pretty good. I filmed one time. We went there. We were in the middle of a trip and we went and saw him. And I've bumped into him in a lot of different trips because of the animal guys. But Hamilton's not a guy I like film with. So that's another weird thing. Like, and I would talk about anyone, but at the same time, like I always try to keep it to the people I actually met and did stuff with, because I also think you got to keep it real to some degree. But I totally agree that, I mean, Hamilton's another anomaly. Look at this dude. He's still like putting out like crazy shit here and there, you know?
Oh yeah, and on that note, that's where the passion comes from. Is that you have this footage of somebody and that you want to share. You have these experiences that make you want to share and talk about them, and I totally can relate to that because people will give like ideas, and there's certain times where I'm like, oh my god, that's the best thing ever. Then I do it, and then there's other times where I'm like, don't give me an idea. It's my YouTube channel.
Well, yeah. I mean, you know, it's a weird thing, because I will say this. Sometimes it feels like those ideas are coming from like, wait, what are you trying to tell me, right? But then when you take a step back, I think most of the time people just are so pumped, or it's something they'd like to see, and so it's definitely great. You know, it's great. But what always does suck is when you have a part of an idea and someone gives you another part of that idea, then you're like, no, you're fucking up my foot train. I was on to something. But that's a good problem to have, I would say.
Oh, absolutely. All of that is good problems to have for sure. So how did filming evolve throughout time for you? I mean, I'm sure you didn't, like have the same camera the entire time, and like, oh,
it's an interesting thing, because I'll say this: God bless everyone who still wants to shoot on like the Sonys and shit, or any big camera, because I certainly do not ever.
Yeah.
Because those fucking things have burned me so many times. Like, never again. I love digital format, but yeah, for me, BMX was all right. So you will enjoy this. This is a good tidbit of information. The first computer I bought for editing was a Mac Beige G3, and the first hard drive, internal hard drive, because they didn't even make really external. The externals work differently then.
Yeah.
It was an internal drive that had to be put in by the shop, and it was $10,000 for 10 gigabytes.
Oh
Period.
My god!
That was the rate. So think about that, 10 gigabytes. Like, when you think about like what your phone or some shit has. So the first videos I ever made, which were on that, which was actually not the first videos I made, but it was the first videos I made on that, which Domination was one of them. That was, you could only put about 3 minutes at a time on it. So you'd put that off onto a digital tape and then edit all the sections together. So it was super complex, right? And then something like Domination was shot on mini DV tapes, a couple VHS-C tapes, a couple high 8 tapes. So, and then for me, I started shooting on VHS, then it moved to high 8, then it moved to digital tapes, and then to cards, right? So that was more or less my evolution, And then when I first made videos, they came out only on VHS. Then DVDs came out, but DVDs took a long time. So even like the first few ride videos I did didn't come out on DVD. Only that Best Buy, well, it was some company that supplied like Best Buy and Tower Records when they were still around. Industry Rhythm, and I think Basics all came out on DVD in those stores. But like this deal was so backdoor, like I didn't even get a copy, like my mom bought a copy, like that's how it was. Like I never even really, I would go when I was traveling, I would stop at Best Buys or Tower Records and I'd look for them and I'd find them in stores. So I know they made a lot of them and it sounded like they sold a lot of them, but I never knew much of that backdoor stuff, the back end money stuff on that back then anyway.
Yeah, that $10,000 for 10 gigabytes. And when you say you could only do 3 minutes at a time, is that because it was filling the 10 gigabytes?
Yeah, 10 gig. Like at that time, if you digitize some clips, and you had to be very specific about what you digitize. Ain't like now, where now you could just throw in pieces of stuff. Now you had to like put in what you wanted, so you had to think a little bit ahead when you were editing, more so than now. And then but like I had to finance that. That was a rough one, you know what I mean? And then like so the first few videos I made were paying for the equipment that I eventually used. Put it that way, right? Like you know, like one of my like domination, my deal with Rick was like ultimately was for a camera, you know. But a couple of things I had done before that, all the money went towards this financing of this the hard drive, which was like I don't remember what it was, but I think it was like I think somehow when it all worked out, it was like $160 a month for like several years. So like it was like a pain in the
car.
Ass, you know? Yeah, it was. It was like financing a car for me. I didn't even own a car at that exact time. So yeah.
Oh my god, that's so wild. Could the computer handle editing it very well, or did it bog down?
Yes and no. So that was on an early version of Premiere. So before Final Cut even came out, and that early version of Premiere would be. I mean, like you would. If the props guys know this better than anyone, but you'd render a section and you just leave it for the night, you know. It'd be like, because usually like a 3-minute section would be about like it could be anywhere between 15 to 20 hours. So like you would edit and then you'd render it, and then the next morning you'd watch it and there might be a glitch in it, and then you just have to re-render, and that's all you could do.
Gosh.
So like the process was crazy back then, because you just were always up at night, you were always rendering overnight. Like if you missed your render window and you tried to edit,
it was over.
Hey, fucked, yeah. So you always had to like be on top of that.
Man, that's so crazy. I can't believe that it was. I mean, I can believe that it was like that, but like I know what that's like, you know. I mean, did you ever, like, how long did it take you to have a computer that was capable of really handling what you were doing?
Yeah, I'll let you know when that happens. And the new M1s are really good.
The
actually,
M1 Max?
Yeah, but it's like, even that, it's like, you know, put it this way. It's like, you know, I had a whole edit on there the other day for work that has like a bunch of 4K footage, and I was like, man, this thing handles it really well.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of cameras are coming out 6 and 8K now. We'll see how it handles that. You know, like it's just, everything keeps getting better, and you just always have to keep catching up, which is just the way, you know, I've just come to realize technology works that way. And it's interesting because the early days, not saying I have money now, because that's not the case. I'm just a grown up with a bank account. But like back then, a camera was like your camera. It was like really more important than your bike, because your bike you would swap out more than your camera. You know, your camera was like the camera forever. Yeah. Now I look at cameras as just like a piece of equipment, which is so different, right? Like, like I even bought 2 years ago, I bought a shell of a Canon A1, which is an old high-8 camera. It doesn't work anymore, but I just wanted to have it because that was like one of the first cameras I shot a lot with, and I just wanted it on a shelf. Unfortunately, I don't have it here, otherwise I'd show it, but I have it at home right now in my garage. But like, you know, just things like that, like the nostalgia for an old, you know, that camera's a piece of shit, but by today's standards. But back then it was like I worked at the post office for like 6 months to buy that camera, so it was like a big deal, you know?
Hey, I get it, man. I mean, literally, since we're talking about all this, and I haven't done anything with it yet, my first, like, real video camera is sitting right here.
Oh, no way. That's awesome.
And this is how, this is going to make you feel old, but this is the first real, like, video camera I have, which isn't even really real, but it's a hard drive camera. So it was when hard drive cameras came out.
Yeah, but dude, there was a time when they started doing, I shot forever with some Canon. I can't remember which one it was, but it was a Canon tape camera, but you could also shoot to an external hard drive, and I shot with that for a while. I shot like a lot of 6.0 stuff on that, and I shot a lot of the Primo Nice Try video on that one, but a lot of random ride stuff in there too. But when that first came out, I was like blown away with the fact that it was digitally right there in my pack, and I could just plug it in and edit immediately, you know. And then that's when it started realizing, like, oh shit, like if the internet catches up to this is going to be crazy. And it did, you know. Then it did it. It was, you know, back at that time, it'd take forever just to upload one clip, but now, you know, obviously you could do anything, so it's pretty cool in that sense.
Right.
Definitely advertises it.
I'm sitting here trying to find the camera. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, it's wild how crazy things are these days. And a really, really good question just came up in the process of having to only be able to do 3 minutes at a time, or even coming up through the later years, did you ever like lose stuff? Like, what's the worst losing a clip story?
Oh, all right. So interesting. So really, the 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 worst stuff I ever did, I never really lost clips after, although there is one later in life, but I'll get into that in a second. But the worst thing was actually fucking up filming, right? Because
Oh.
people would session things and you're constantly hitting the record button.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure anyone who's shot at a trails or a box jump has had this problem. You constantly record stuff, and you get off sequence.
Yep.
And you hit record and you're stopping it when you're supposed to be recording. So I did that in Domination to Sandy Carson on a roof gap he did, and he was very nice about it. I could see he never wanted to speak to me again at that moment, and I don't blame him. I remember being like, oh, I felt so just stupid and embarrassed, and and he's like one of the standard guys, and I'm the new guy filming him, and he jumped this roof gap, and I just fucked up and had to ask him to do it again, and then I'm weird about shit like that. I was very clear, like, yo, if you don't want to do it, I just have to apologize because I don't want to talk you into it. I would never want to talk someone into one more try and then that be bad. So
right.
Like I was like, because that shit is really, I'm like a little superstitious that way, and it's also just like I don't want to put down people no matter what the circumstances. But he was like, nah, I've done it before, fuck it, I'll do it, and it was all good. But then years and years later, I do have one clip of all time, only one clip that I'm still missing, and this is more recent. It's like in the last 12 years. It's of Brian Kaczynski, and I don't remember where we were, but I was on a trip with him, Biz, and Rooftop, and it might be Kansas City or something. And then he does like a feeble, and there was a gap to a wall. So he does like a feeble outledge that he was able to gap like 4 feet to a wall, right?
Yeah.
Right? And I was holding a bunch of clips for him because he was just figuring out what he was on. I was filming something for Rooftop, and he was on a bunch of trips. So I was just holding clips for him. And I actually got a hard drive stolen, that just disappeared with this little iPod. Sorry. I did this with Nigel Sylvester. We did this Gatorade series of Gatorade videos, a whole bunch of. But Gatorade had gifted us these really dope iPads with this Gatorade insignia in it, and I was like, and that got stolen with it. So I had lost that clip, and I thought for sure I had it backed up somewhere, but it turned out I never did. I still when I see drives that I was like, oh, I haven't looked at that drive in a few years, I still look for that clip, but that's the only clip, honestly, I've ever lost, because I'm pretty much like, back when hard drives were still expensive, I was pretty adamant about not deleting them, so I would just put them away. So generally, I saved a lot of stuff, and I still have all the tapes for everything. And I can say this now because it doesn't matter anymore. It's got to be way past any legal ramifications. But forever, Ride BMX wanted all the tapes back, and I told them they're exactly where I left them, which was a fucking lie. I took every tape out of there, because when I had left Ride BMX, and this is nothing against the guys who worked there, because it wasn't Ride, it was Transworld. There was a faction of people at Transworld that were looking to sell off a lot of that footage to like anyone they could. So including like these dumb clip shows and things like that. They were actually looking to like do weird shit, like, and again, this wasn't the Ride people at all. This was just higher ups at Transworld. And this is when the company started falling apart. They were actually, at one point, I'd seen it where they wanted to like, someone wanted to purchase Dave Mirra footage for something, but it wasn't one of his sponsors, right? So it was like, wait. So now you're just going to use Dave Mirra in something. Dave Mirra ain't going to get shit. The guy who filmed ain't going to get shit. Ride's just going to take, Ride's, Transworld, whoever parent company was in charge, was just going to tape the shit. So I was just like, yeah, the tapes are where I left them, but I took them all. So I have all the tapes. I have every tape from Ride. They're not organized so great, but I kind of know what's what, because they'll say some shit like, they'll say Heino is fucked. And Heino is fucked is the tape where he does the wall ride over a Wiener Schnitzel, because that was fucked, and it's like, that's my labeling system is kind of like that. So no one else can ever really go through it and figure it out anyway, but.
My God, dude, just all of the potential ideas that pop up with that kind of thing. Like, you could sit there and you don't even have to do like film or edit anything. You just set it up so that you can like use the stuff I'm using, put it in the background, be like, all right, this is what we're looking at today, and just play it.
No, and we totally could. And a raw tape, some of the raw tapes would be amazing, because every once in a while there's a tape that will say like crazy tape. And generally a crazy tape is something, because sometimes you went out with someone and you filmed on a whole tape and you only got one trick, right? But sometimes you got like sometimes you went 3 or 4 different sessions and you got like 6 bangers on the tape, which is like, those are the tapes you want to go through, you know? But yeah, that stuff all exists.
Wow, man, that's like that's the kind of stuff my responsibility brain's kicking in. Like, people need to see that.
No, I know. Trust me, I want to get it all out in a cohesive way. You know.
That's the hard part. How do you organize?
Yeah.
I don't know if you how I don't know how far you could even go with organizing something like that.
No, right now I'm just hitting it sporadic, right? Like I said, I sent some tapes back to the copy place, and then DV tapes. I still have this mini DV VCR, so I can transcode those myself. But
yeah,
even that takes some time, right? Because sometimes you're sitting there, and then it's funny because the computer I have the program on is pretty old, so the mouse pad's weird. So I'm always banging it down real hard. I need to like update that part of it, but otherwise it'll be all right.
Yep, I updated my software. I updated OS 10 to a newer version, and it killed everything I could do for that, because I had a setup to do that too.
Yeah, dude, that sucks. Like, right, so much of the old stuff is starting to finally now become like really truly outdated. Like, you can't do it on the newest software and stuff. Yes, you need to use an older computer, because yeah, actually that computer still, if I open up an old project file, it still opens up like old Final Cut. And like, I don't know, some people I know still run Final Cut, but I haven't run Final Cut for years now, you know.
Are you talking about Final Cut 7? People still use
it?
Yeah, people still use that?
Yeah. Fernando Gorman still definitely uses it. He told me that just over the summer and last summer, and I was amazed. He's like, that's what I know. I love this. And I'm like, that's crazy. I couldn't do it.
Dude, the funny story about Final Cut 7 is because I went to the Columbus College of Art and Design here in Ohio, got into video classes, and I had been making videos and using Premiere for like years before this point. And so we get into video 1, and they're like, all right, we're going to learn Final Cut 7. And like, this was before Final Cut 10 ever came out or anything, but even then I'm like, no, I already know Premiere. I'm not learning another software. And then I found out later, it was like, it's old. Even then it was old. So I'm like, no, I'm just not doing it. I already know how to do everything you're going to teach, so I'm just not going to do it. And then the next year they canceled out of teaching that and started teaching Premiere.
Oh yeah, no, it makes sense. I mean, Premiere. Yeah, if we're talking just editing programs, I'm still so in awe of how Premiere just saw Final Cut fuck up and pick it up and kept it going in the right path and just did it so perfect. Like, just stepped in like it never mattered. I mean, I still use Final Cut presets on my Premiere because I still use the same shortcuts. So I'm like same key commands and stuff. And it's funny because newer editors. I just lent the guy my computer here at work, and then he couldn't do any of it because only people who switched over do that. You know what I mean? Like,
the keyboard shortcuts.
If you didn't switch over, there would be no reason to use those presets.
They're all wrong. He's trying to use them, and he just can't get it's not working.
Very different. They're definitely very different.
That is hilarious. I mean, I did a similar thing moving from Movie Maker to Premiere. I set my Premiere window up exactly the way the old Windows Movie Maker was set up.
Because it's the way you like it, right? Yeah.
That's so great. So, I mean, you talked about the computer stuff. What about like camera stuff? How long did it take you to move you like digital, so how long did it take you to get to digital after the camera that did both? What was the first camera?
So so Canon, I can't remember the name of the camera, but it was a Canon, and it took tapes, but it went to a third-party user recorder, and the camera would trigger the recorder, and every once in a while it misfired, but the great thing was it was running the tape always, so you actually always had a backup as you were shooting. And as far as a system, it was great, but it was also, but as far as like shooting, it was the nerdiest system I ever went out with, because I literally would have a FireWire connected to a hip pack, and the hip pack had that external hard drive on it, right? And it was just another thing you had to remember to charge. And then, like, so for instance, when we're out in the 6.0 trips and those guys would just go all day, at some point the recorder would just run out of battery power. It had an internal battery only. So, like, then they would just go to tape, right? So then you're coming home with, like, half of the clips are on this hard drive and half of them are on the tape, and then you'd have to transcode both. And then the format on the tape is kind of fucked because I can't transfer any of those tapes now because they'd have to be transferred on that same type of recorder. It's not regular mini DV. It was like HD DV or something. So it's a little bit different of a format. It doesn't read in normal DV players. So that was like my first one. But then other than that, my first like DSLR or whatever would have been a Canon 7D, which I bought in line with when we did there was these Nigel videos, which Go All Day or something. I don't even remember the names of it, but it was like this 3-story thing in New York where he like grinds a fruit stand, talks to this girl, and he has like all this like experience stuff. But that was the first time I ever used it, mainly because we were like, I wanted the lenses to look different because, they just look more cinematic than regular video cameras, right? So it was like just getting that shallow depth of field and stuff. So
yeah, was it the XL1?
The XL1 is the camera. Yep. Good.
I knew it.
Perfect. Nice. Yeah, it was the XL1. Yeah. I that camera was actually awesome. Like, I always thought Canon did a good job, but that was still a digital camera. But the fact that you could actually export to this recorder, just for me, started feeling like awesome, because when I was doing the Nike video at the same time, I was working for Vital. So Vital stuff was a lot of contests and events. So you just wanted to be able to get the footage off the camera as quick as possible.
Right. Yeah, it's a race at that point. Dude,
exactly.
That freaking camera still sells for $400 or $500.
Dude, all that shit does. It's so funny because no one because it's like VCRs. Like VCRs are still kind of expensive if you buy them new because the parts are expensive, but the value isn't really there,
That's so wild. So being someone who's filmed like from the very early days of tape all the way up through SD cards up to today with Instagram, what's your perspective on how BMX videos work today? I mean, even just the distribution of BMX videos has changed so much.
Yeah, well, that's hard. That's a loaded question because, like to me, it's like, everyone has their opinion. Right? And my opinion is like, I'm in one sense, I'm surprised people still want videos because it's so easy to just say, I'll just go on my phone and see 10 dope things, right? But at the same time, I can't believe, in one sense, I can't believe more companies haven't tried to put out full-length videos more. And then, but at the other side, I do see exactly why they wouldn't even try. But then when some of them do, I'm amazed that they still go for like a DVD format or a very how can I put it? A very cliche format of a video, which I'm not totally against, right? Because like if Bob Turbo right now says, I'm gonna make a new Scapegoat video, and he's gonna do it the way he's done all the Scapegoat videos, and that makes total sense to me. But if I was a brand right now and I was gonna do a team video, I would try, and I don't think this is easy, but I think I would definitely try something to make that video stand out above everything else, and also make the person, however they're getting it, whatever platform they're seeing it on, or whatever, if they're paying for it especially, how do you make it more special than the 10 clips they're going to go watch on Instagram, right? And I don't think that's easy. Like, again, I think that's really hard. But I think you also have to get the team on board, because one thing I cannot fucking believe for the life of me is when someone's filming for a video and they let their friends post the fucking iPhone clip before that video comes out. I'm like, what is wrong with you? Like, come on. Like, at the company level, someone should be like, come on, man. Like, what are you thinking? Like, can we make this special? Like, the only way this is going to be special is if we all come together and make it a secret, Yep. And it's like, and I know that's hard to do into the, like, thought process. Why is that so hard? And if I was filming right now, I bet that's the hardest thing in the world, because, like, if I was a filmer right now and I was filming BMX every day, I'm sure I'm thinking every day I got to post something, right? So it's like, so you run out of, like, you run out of your commodity at a certain point, but at the same time, that video that you're working on has to be the most important thing. And if that's going to be the most important thing, you just got to save the clips, and that's hard to do. Like, people used to love, like, well, during trips, they want to look at footage. And I used to fight that so hard because I really want them to forget about it. I don't want them ever to remember how dope that clip is until they see it in the video, because also there is something about raw footage, while it's super cool. Sometimes those little extra 2 or 3 seconds before of run up and run out, it's not as special as when it hits the music in the right spot, or the trick before and the trick after in the section, right? And I think I do believe that was an art form, and I think it still is, and I think people have to, I think you have to treat it as such, especially now. It's more of an art form than it was then, right? I don't think when I was making videos, we thought that would ever end in a sense. And I don't think it ever will end, but I think that, it has definitely decreased in the amount you see,
I think you hit a really key question in that, in just how do you make it special? How
Yeah,
do you
yeah. And that's really hard to do.
Yeah, that's a crazy question right now, because you see things just going like viral on Instagram, and people see that over top of seeing the special part of like the project that they might be working on, or kids. I mean, we're talking about, like the pro level making team
Yeah,
trip videos and stuff,
exactly.
which is way different than some random kid posting a crazy clip on Instagram.
Right, right, right. But even that kid, I think it's amazing that that kid who wants to come up in BMX, that he posts so much of the one clips. Like, he would do himself probably a lot better waiting 3 weeks and posting out an edit, even though I can guarantee his numbers will be a little bit less. But if a potential sponsor sees it, that's the most important thing, right? So like maybe 4,000 less people will see it because he made it 60 seconds instead of one trick clip,
Mm,
But the quality of the what people are looking at is going to be more important, and that could lead to a deal for him, or that could lead to him going on a trip, or him going to a contest, or whatever, or her, actually, because that's another thing. There really wasn't that many girls riding when I was doing this stuff. Very few. Nina,
yeah.
and then Kim, and a couple others. Aaron Donato, though. Wait, actually, I come to think of it, I think I might be the first person to put a girl section in a regular BMX video.
Oh, damn.
Standard Country, Aaron Donato. That's right.
Boom. There's your trivia for your first Big BMX Show episode. Uh, yeah, that all of that is such an interesting concept to talk about, and it reminds me of Brad Sims on the no jumper thing he did recently, because he was
Mm-hmm.
talking about that exact concept of like not holding on to footage, because where he's at, like him putting out this crazy thing on Instagram is getting way hundreds of thousands of like more reach than
Yeah.
an edit would for him, and that's how he ended up getting on all these giant brands that he's on, which is wild.
No, and I think for Brad, it's like Brad's timing and Brad, the way he promotes himself, that obviously 100% worked, right? But
Mm-hmm.
now if Brad turned around, like for instance, this Adidas team that's
Yeah.
seemingly put together. Now, if those guys all held back, let's just say 3 months. Let's just say 3 months, they just collected their best clips and put out a 15-minute Adidas promo. That video is going to be like, what the fuck? And
Mm-hmm.
then if Adidas sees like, hey, we want to be like street culture and blah blah blah, they put one of their new up and coming artists, or even an artist that everyone knows, and they put the music behind it, and they drop 3 fresh new tracks that no one ever heard on that 15-minute edit. Now we're talking about something that goes through the roof, right? Like now,
Yeah.
and then maybe a little concept behind the video, but like that's the type of stuff that, like, to me, is where people should be thinking, or it seems like they should be, because I mean, when you think about like big major brands, that's what they're doing kind of anyway. It's always just trying to find a new special way of putting your shit out.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
not always easy. But Brad isn't. But to that point, Brad's not wrong for what he did. I think that he did. I mean, Brad Sims is also, in my mind, a beast, because he has never really let being, no matter what side of the coin he was on, he always got himself in there, right? Like, he
Yeah.
always pushed himself through. He always kept himself relevant, and then to the point where now he's Rider of the Year last year, or whatever. And it's like, he could have been Rider of the Year 5 years ago too. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
that's sick that Brad's done this much.
Yeah, and I guess from my personal perspective, I haven't paid attention to the the numbers on, for example, when somebody saves up, or the team saves up for that 15-minute long thing and then posts a crazy clip on Instagram after the fact, to see
Mhm.
if there is actually an advantage of like, oh, I did this today versus, oh, I did this 3 months ago, but we saved it for a video. I don't know if there
Yeah.
is or not.
No, and it's a good point. But I will say this: I'm sure, completely sure, that for the brands involved, there's a value in creating events online. You know what I mean? So like, so maybe even not so much for the rider, but I do think if a rider goes to a company and if they're taking product and trips and money, then there is some responsibility for them to work for that brand, you know, as long as the brand's doing right by them. It's a totally different story if the brand's promising shit that doesn't happen, that then they fucking can't do anything. But if they're actually coming through for that person, then that person should come through for the brand.
Right.
And then if that's the case, I'm sure that if you took any brand and if they create events like next month we're going to drop this 3-minute edit, let's say, with the whole team, that's going to help their sales more than the everyday riding clip, because their everyday riding clip is just expected. It's a given. It's going to be there. Right? It doesn't create the excitement. But if you're S&M and you're saying, hey, on Friday we're going to drop a video with 5 of the S&M dudes and it's going to be fucking sick, and there's some other footage in there that makes it even a little bit more special, you know, whatever that is, behind the scenes or a skit or whatever, that helps the brand build, you know.
You know how we quantify this? Through like codes that people use when they buy stuff. Like you take that 3-minute thing and because that's the problem with BMX, and it always has been, there's no way to quantify what a video is actually doing for you other than like public opinion and word of mouth and just what you hear. But like it's really hard to tell if this video coming out translates to sales. So this is just me thinking on the spot here of like, what if with that S&M, for example, video, if they came out with a video with 5 different riders and at the end of that video they're like, all right, this video live this week only, you use this code, you get 10% off or something on their website.
No, that's a great way of thinking about it. I mean, being that direct about it too. You know, some people will be like, oh, it's all about sales, but it's like, but as a business you are, you know. And if you think back for a second to all the videos back in the day when companies made videos, I mean, videos were insane when you really think about it. Think about like Pepsi, right?
Yeah.
Pepsi would spend $5 million to have a spot at the Super Bowl, and then they spend $25 million to have Britney Spears do a commercial for them, right?
Yeah.
And that's all something that they just gave away.
Yeah.
Like they just put that shit on TV and that's it, just so you see a logo. But BMX and skateboarding as well, and all the action sports, had this weird thing where they could make these 40 to 60-minute commercials that people bought.
Yeah.
You know,
Whoa.
like you know, you're McNeil, you're Standard, you're S&M, you're anyone. You're selling your brand, but you're selling the commercial. It was amazing. No one took advantage of it fully, and no one knew it was going to come down that way. But now you're more, and all these brands are in the same place as major brands, where now it's about straight advertising, right?
Yeah. What?
Or the advertising.
What a wild concept that you just blew my mind with. I never even considered that. And wow, that's so crazy. But and then I had another thought too of how this like code idea could even like, there's an easy way to, oh, people use this code for this week, boom, there you have all of the numbers that came from that video. Guess what? All of the people in that video get a kickback off of all the sales they just generated.
Dude, that would be awesome. The only problem with that is if the company like read into it too much, right? Because I think some guys have sellability more than others, right?
Yeah.
So it would suck if like one dude on the team, he did really well and everyone's thinking, oh, these other guys on the team suck because they didn't sell as much. Because I don't think you can one-to-one that, but I do think you're right. I think that process would help a little, you know, and it'd be a great way to incentivize like even paying the riders more, because the company can't turn around if your code's the code being used, company can't tell you they can't afford you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and like even I've been advocating for this for a couple of years now. Of every rider in their sponsor, they need to have their code that gets used so that they can have a way to track what they're actually doing. But what I was saying is like you have a generic code on top of that just for the video, and then you split it without like, you don't even have to break it down.
But yeah. It's almost like a lottery, and then it gives incentive for the riders to push the sales of that.
That's exactly.
Hey, wait, I have a question, because I meant to ask this before, but I was trying to find the right place. Are you sponsored by Park Tool?
I am.
Dude, that's the best sponsor to have. I am so jealous of that. When I worked at Ride, they hooked us up with a bunch of stuff in the back,
Yeah.
and I was like, "This is the greatest ever." I mean, anyone who's ever worked at a shop knows Park Tools is the fucking best. Yeah,
Shout
that's the
out to
best.
Park Tool, man.
That
Yeah,
blue
it's
shit is the best. I always buy random tools still because I'm like, it just makes me so happy to use that blue tool. Right? This
yeah.
is the best. That's dope. Congratulations.
Thank you. I've worked with them for like 4 or 5 years at this point. It's definitely a dream thing.
Nice. No, and you know what? That's one of those companies that, like, they're obviously a bicycle brand, but they've always been supportive of BMX, right? So, like,
Yeah.
and to me, especially those type of brands, I love those type of brands that were like, they didn't really have to support BMX. They could have easily just said, fuck that shit. We're more about high-end bikes and high-end this, but they've never been that way. They've always been they've been in all of it. And I just think the industry needs more of that, because that's another problem with the bicycle industry outside of BMX, is that there is like this weird disconnection amongst all of it. And, depending what shop you go into, you don't know if you're going to end up with like these hardcore fixie people, these hardcore roadies. And, it's like, it's very hard to figure out like what kind of shop you're even walking into,
Right. Yep, we all know that story all too well. Of like,
Exactly.
The local bike shop has people who don't care at all about BMX, no matter how much you try, how much money you throw at them. Like, and like, I guess there's a good way to look at that would be to be like, well, I mean, imagine if you had your shop and somebody brought a fixie into that, and you're like, well, it's not and your passion is BMX. Like, you're just...
No, totally. And I get that part of it totally. I'm just always amazed that the industry as a whole has always been so fragmented, because it seems like it's, and could be totally wrong, and every area is different, but especially in bigger cities, I always feel like a shop should be as like thorough as possible with a little bit of everything, because that's who's coming in. You would think. Obviously, some places, you get like, you're on a certain coastline or something, you get a heavy like road bike influence, you're gonna lean towards that.
Yeah.
But I imagine all these shops always get kids coming in and being like, I need cranks for a BMX bike. Like, you would think they would have one key brand, but
Right.
I know it's a harder sell. I worked at Tip Plus for a while, and I remember it's definitely a hard sell for the shops and the distribution, for sure.
Yeah, and just how many different things exist out there now.
Yeah,
That makes it...
that's a big problem too. Sometimes competition isn't a good thing. Sometimes you need to condense that industry down a little.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, like, if your views on anything, or what your views might be, being that you work at a marketing company now and you see more marketing from other like companies outside of BMX and how that works, how that perspective may be possible to help BMX.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely some stuff here. I mean, some of it's a little like a lot different, I would say, because obviously, like, certain brands, like the company I work for, we did a lot of work with Nike for years.
Yeah.
And Nike, Nike works in different categories. So you have like running, football, basketball, baseball, things like that. So like, I think there's things you can take from each, but you also have to level set that when they're talking about basketball, their highest paid guy is $240 million. So it's like this guy
Right.
can literally swallow our industry in one paycheck, and like, and not exactly, but more or less, right?
Yeah.
So, but there's definitely on the kind of like future cast, there's things that they look at that I think are smart. Like, because I think like for years Nike started getting into the customization of things. Like, you go and build your own Nike on there, right? Yeah. Way of putting it, but you can, a lot of their shoes you can redo your own versions of, and bike companies did that. Like, I actually think Standard is kind of onto something, although I don't think it's that easy for an American-made company to do it. I think it'd be way easier for an overseas company to do it, and I think that those timelines can get shorter over the years, where people can go online and just order a bike to the exact specs they want, and that's what comes, and you don't need the preset off the shelf 21-inch, here, and 74.5 or whatever, head to, or 72.5. You don't need that, like, those. You don't need those specs anymore. You can really just kind of pick and choose wherever you want, because everyone's a little different that way too. So I think that there is tons of stuff that you can pull from like marketing agencies like that. I will say this, like I said, I was a marketing manager at Tip Plus for like just like a year, but the things I've learned now in my life, I mean, if I went back to that job, I would do everything different. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, but that's hindsight, right? And time has changed too. I mean, I think I'd be looking at the way it was then as opposed to the way it is now, which is, I'm pretty detached from that. So I don't know all the challenges that the shops and the distribution face now that they did 10 years ago. And they're very different for sure,
Right. Yeah, things change so rapidly.
Yeah.
It's wild. I mean, things change in BMX as fast as they change in cameras and the video world.
Yeah, right. They do.
Yeah. So you still ride. You're making videos. Are you filming BMX at all?
No, not really. I mean, I have aspirations to someday, but I'm not. There's always like little things, like I hit up Adam Banton every once in a while. We've loosely talked about me coming out to Arizona and filming something with him, and there's like a couple dudes that like I could still see doing a one-off project with. You know what I mean? Because like they're like little things, but nothing like, I'm not like working for any companies or anything like that. I actually had some conversations with Brad Sims a few months ago about a project that was like looking good, but I think we kind of both, not in a bad way, just parted ways because he got busy, I got busy, that type of thing. I mean, if it came up again, it would be awesome, but I don't, it's that, would love to do it, but I don't know who wants to do anything cool anymore. I mean, because like how can I put it, like not in a shitty way, like if I'm at a skate park and someone's like, oh, can you film this clip real quick, of course I'm gonna do that.
Yeah,
but like I would legit like to go take like a project, go out and like have a concept and make something with it, because Terry Adams and me talked a couple times about that too. Because like, I don't know, at the end of me making BMX videos, the Nigel videos, not all of them, just the one series, I thought I loved it. And it went a very mainstream way that like I felt like mainstream people would love it. And like the proof's in the pudding. This kid's career launched from it, and he still literally puts out the exact same video years later. Seriously, like I'm not even like making fun of him. I mean, you could look at those first videos, and the stuff he puts out now is the same thing. And the only thing I'd argue is they put a little more budget behind it, so it's filmed a little better in some cases. But it's like, that was, to me, that would have been a way to like help BMX grow, because you bring in other brands that way, because I know people don't like the idea of Nikes and shit coming into BMX, and I do get it, because there is a degree of like, who the fuck are these people? But that little influx of money and what that allows some of the people to do is like, it is important, I think. So but it has to be balanced, and it can't be like a total sellout, right? Like it has to be like, all right, you guys are coming in, it has to make sense for everyone. It can't just be like whatever you want because you have money. No way, but it has to be, you're coming in with your money to help our thing be better, or no deal,
Right. And I've said this also for years, is that people just need to come to the understanding that you're never going to be with one of these big corporations for a long period of time. It's going to end. So go into it recognizing that, and also recognize that they're a giant corporation, and you should try and just do as much as you possibly can in the time that you have available.
I agree. I would be, yes, you're totally right. Like I look at like Garrett and Dennis and them, like they had a really great life on Nike's dime, as they should. You know what I mean? And to be honest, like I can say that the Nike people were nothing but cool to all of them. Like, every chance they got, they were like business or first class tickets, things that normal BMXers don't always get. So like it was, very nice hotels, very nice dinners, all that stuff, and that's awesome. And then the only bummer about that is, I wish Adidas jumped in at the same time, because then they would have competed and more people would have made money, So like it's like that type of thing. And there's other companies that can come in with that. That's what's cool, you know what I mean? Like there's other ways that, and then it doesn't take away either. And this is something that on the Rick Thorne video I just posted, that I want to make a point of, and this is totally true, right? Like, because back in the day, people would give Rick Thorne a lot of shit for being on TV, and they would shit on him, really, especially when the internet was fucked, right? With like, you could say whatever you want when no one knew who was really saying it, unless you look at the IP addresses, which oddly enough, Am22 knows that shit. Am22 knows who some of the private comments from BMX boards were, because he looked at IP addresses, so that's fucking sick. But Thorne was like, he literally was on TV because of BMX ultimately, but he was on shows that had nothing to do with BMX.
Yeah.
And he would always try to get BMX segments on. He would always talk about BMX. I remember he was announcing at some ESPN awards, and he just gave a shout out to Heino for no reason. And most of the audience was like, what the fuck's he talking about? but like, how dope is it that this guy is like literally up there promoting something that he just loves?
Yep.
You know, and then that goes back to, and then it kills me that anyone would shit on him. And Mira had this problem too. Nyquist as well, but I don't think Nyquist cared as much. But Mira, I knew it bothered him because he would make comments about it here and there. But like he would get he would get knocked for being this like corporate pro. Meanwhile, you know, on a riding level, no one can fuck with that guy. Period. Any level, anytime. Because the thing is, all the shit that people do streetwise, he could do all that. He could do anything, you know.
Yeah.
But like he would get knocked for it, and that's a terrible thing because this guy was growing the sport. Video games and all that shit is half of why as many people do ride today, you know.
Yep, and I think if we could just shift the perspective from corporation bad, stay away at all costs, to corporation makes cool things happen, let's take them for all they're worth before they get rid of us.
That's 100% right. It's just like having a job. Like, you know, no one wakes up and, well, I mean, you might like what you do for work, and you might have great days, but no one wants to work every day, you know.
Right.
Like, that's something you have to do. So like, yeah, get the most out of it you can, you know.
Yep. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And I think that perspective has been shifting as of the past few years.
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, when people talk about Nigel, I feel like there's less like straight up hate on Nigel for doing what he does, and more of like respect for the fact that he's like made amazing things happen, and he has that foundation now. I think something for bikes.
You know, as far as he's concerned, I just, you know, wish him the best. Let's just say that. But I wish he'd be a little bit more into trying to help BMX and not just himself. That's just my opinion, you know. But like, that's, you know, that's for everyone to make their own thing. I mean, I know that guy literally tweeted, "I'm bigger than BMX," and that just is a.
I didn't know that.
I'm not like a diehard person, but like that type of stuff just doesn't sit well with me because I'm like, what? How are you bigger than the thing that you're a part of? Like, that's not possible, my man. But, you know, that's life.
I get it, and I say those things coming from my perspective of just not knowing everything and just seeing what I see.
Yeah.
Man, so we can expect more of these fun little tidbit Instagram videos whenever you feel like doing them.
You know, I was gonna do a couple more, but I hurt my back yesterday, so I just rested all day. But yeah, there is gonna be more. I think I don't like this past week. I put out one a day for 5 days just because I wanted to.
Jeez.
I actually just wanted to see how it would look. That's why I did all of them. But I think now there'll be like more like 1 or 2 a week for a little bit, and then we'll see where it goes. I have a couple ideas on some that I like footage I had already seen, and I thought, this would be a cool one. Because there's a couple things too that, like, you know, there's also timing, right? Like I'll talk about one right now. There was a contest once to get a bunch of people to get sponsored by Haro. One person would win, and a bunch went down. I don't know if did you ever see this by any chance when it was on Vital?
Is this God dang it, what's his name? There's a dude from Ohio who rode for Haro that I think might have been a part of that. Dustin Bauer?
Was Dustin Bauer there? I'm trying to think.
Either way.
But anyway, there was like 6 or 7 dudes, but they were only there for a couple of days, but at the last minute we decided to do it like a reality show. So it was super, like, dude, I could talk about this for days because like Nyquist was so down, but at the same time, he had the worst position because Nyquist basically had to stand there on top of a ramp while 10 dudes stood under the ramp, and half of them were his friends. And then he had to say, like, just like, you know, all these other shows, he had to like vote 5 people off, and 5 people stayed. And we did that like throughout the day. So it was like, you know, it was a little rude, you know what I mean? And we knew the videos were going to come out like every couple days. So we had to get everyone to agree to not tell who won. So like that was super hard too, which I'll save for when I post the video. But like it was like a really, like, I remember Nyquist was like, he was all down, and then right when he had to do it, he was like, oh man, I don't know, and I don't blame him. it felt so tense to sit there and tell these guys, like, you two step forward, you three go away. And that's like, in BMX, you just don't do that,
Yeah.
especially 10, well, that was about 14 years ago. So like, that was that was nuts. And then like, I kind of want to do, it would have to be a multiple part post because I literally found all the footage. I don't even know if you can still look at that stuff on Vital. I haven't checked. It'd be cool if you could, because then people could actually see the episodes, which would be great. Because I don't think I have those for whatever reason, but I have the footage of everyone stepping forward and a bunch of the riding footage, and there was like crazy shit going on. Like Woodward was there, so he was just like fucking killing it. Like he was also drunk the whole time, but he was but he was actually great. And there was just like, it was a fun group of people. Marcus Toka, there. I posted a crash from it the other day with fucking Sparks. They're trying to hand plant.
Yeah.
Down, which was like, and then Sparks, a great example. He was a rider who is fucking insanely good. So that just shows you like the level of the people who are there, and people being told like, yeah, step back. It's like, you're telling someone who's so great, just step back. Oh, that was tense.
Man, that is.
From a memory perspective, I bet you every single person who was there loved that they're a part of it, because it was fun in the end, but nerve-wracking during,
Oh yeah, I mean, that is wild. Like a reality show like that, they're usually just gunning for money, not like this thing that you've dreamed about since you were a kid.
Right. And it's funny that you say that, because thinking back, we really did just kind of run it and kind of make it up as we went along. But it would have been awesome to really have pushed that hard at that concept of like, you get to be sponsored, like you get to do what this guy does, you get to fly, you get to go in a private jet, you get to do, and horror guys, that was true, right? Because every once in a while they get these weird demos they got to do and weird gigs where they get flown on a private jet.
I wish more stuff like that would happen today.
Yeah. Well, it can again. It just some people got to band together and push it.
Yeah, I always say when YouTube finally decides to like bless me, I'm gonna do so much crazy stuff.
But think about it. Like, think about all these. I hate this. Influencers.
I hate that word so much.
Yeah. But think about half the people who ride BMX. They're beyond an influencer. Because some of these influencers are the most untalented humans ever.
Oh yeah.
Straight up. Some of them aren't even good at speaking, and I'm not sure how they're even popular. But they are, and you know what? They made it happen, and they deserve it. But I think if you look at BMX, when you take a rider who can do crazy shit or does crazy shit or takes it to a slightly different level, it takes it a little bit out of the box, that's better than half the influencers out there, right? So there's ways to make that work. I think I might have cut out there for a second.
No, you didn't. I 1000% agree, and just cool stuff like that from that perspective. And you might have thoughts on this too. Just the fact that I think BMX missed the YouTube boat by hating on it instead of recognizing it.
Oh, I seen it firsthand, and I'll tell you, and I don't think it was anyone's fault, because I don't think people could realize, but even the whole internet, really, like, the magazines only did websites because they had to. They didn't want to provide content for it, When Fat Tony first got hired at Ride, it's not that there was anything against Fat Tony, but that was like a little bit of an afterthought, right? Which is crazy thinking about it now, that anyone would think the internet's an afterthought. I mean, that website should have been, Ride BMX. At the same time, it did have content that other people didn't have. They did try to develop it, but the entire machine and business is rolled into the magazine, and this was true for every magazine. So it's really hard to tell now. Let's say GT, you're going to tell GT Bikes, all right, every month you give us $3,000 for these pages. Now we're telling you those pages don't matter. We want $3,000 for this thing over here. I mean, that's a hard sell, right, for anyone. And I think like Brad McDonald saw that. That's why he went and did Vital. And I think Vital was the right path. Although I think early on it was more the idea that it was going to be more of a community, like Facebook or MySpace. Well, it wasn't Facebook then, it was MySpace back then. But I think there was more of a membership idea at first. Yeah. It fully evolved into what we now know is just a regular vlog site or whatever, right? And then you have the whole problem of the way the internet works. Like, just now, it's like, if you're one of the main content providers, you're constantly making, you want to make sure you post something before the 5 other people do, which just becomes this that's just not a way to run a business. But that's a different philosophical thing to discuss. But I do think that, like, not totally on purpose, but all the industry people early on just didn't want to deal with the internet and didn't want to deal with YouTube. And you're right, and they missed out. They totally did, because if they put a little bit towards it, I mean, Adam 22 is the best example of this. Adam 22 built an empire because he embraced it. Period.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
I mean, his no jumper shit, he deserves all the credit in the world for what he has there. But I don't know how he feels about it, but I would say he couldn't have done it without the come up. Like, if he didn't have the come up as kind of like his kind of the thing that gave him the confidence to do no jumper, but then also just even proof of concept in a lot.
Right, exactly.
Because he had already kind of done it, so it was really an easy shift in some ways. And I shouldn't say easy, because I'm sure there's a million things I don't know he had to go through, but you can see the natural evolution there.
Oh yeah, it's just another example of something you learned through BMX helping you in another aspect of life. And,
exactly.
I say this all the time too. All this stuff that keeps coming up is just shit that I say all the time. But like the come up, no matter what you want to say about Adam and like his attitude and whatever, the way certain things went down, the come up did more and better for BMX than anybody has done since it, just purely on the fact that, like, their YouTube channel, they're uploading videos with all these huge pros every single day, or however many times a week, where they're playing games of bike, they're doing Instagram slams, they're doing podcasts with all these different people in the BMX world. And then you shift to how many years forward we are now, and there's just like none of that going on.
Yeah. No, that's totally true. I mean, I think, look, I think Adam straight up created a bunch of pros, and I think early on it was out of necessity, right? Because obviously the guys who were already in Ride, the guys who were constantly in BMX Plus, and the guys who were in Dig, and the guys who were in Ride UK, they weren't going to necessarily go out of their way to like put out a bunch of content for the come up.
Right.
But the guys who were willing, Adam brought up with him. I mean, I think there's a ton of pros there that like, and that doesn't take away from who they are as pros. They just found a different avenue to get to where they wanted to go.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, recently I saw Adam posted something about this year. He says he wants to get the come up back in a better place. And if that's true, that's awesome, because that also shows to me that, like, clearly he hasn't forgot where he come from. So that's dope. You know what I mean? You can't ask for anything else, right? Because if I was running his business, I'd be very content doing what I was doing.
Yeah. Well, no doubt. I mean, you see, I mean, when you do what he does, your focus is on that, and anything that you would do outside of it means you're making less money. So the fact that he would, like, I guess, sacrifice some of the success and time to put towards BMX again, that does say something.
Yeah, because you can make the easy argument, like, oh, you probably won't make money doing this, but he's going to try. And that's sick, Like, I mean, it's not sick to go out and lose money on purpose, but it is sick to try to make something happen,
Yeah, I mean, I hope that happens. I think there needs to be just more stuff from people within BMX, and it's all part of what makes the stuff that you're doing with these short videos just so rad.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm glad people like them. That's one thing, because even when I put it out, I was like, does anyone care? I'm expecting to see comments like, who the fuck is this old guy? What's he talking about? Why is his voice like that? Does he have wrinkles? Like, this is dumb shit.
No, I don't think that will be the case at all. And I don't know if you've encountered this or not yet, but there is an entire community of older dudes who ride that exists online, and people who are coming back into BMX.
Oh, yeah. It's been amazing, actually, because I see, it's like that's one thing I like about the algorithm. I like when the algorithm gets you out of the people you follow, so you get like new people. Every once in a while I'll see a name, I'll be like, holy shit, I think I hung this dude on my wall when I was in 8th grade, like, it's like stuff like that. And then the odd communication to it, like, R.L. Osborne, which was like when I was starting to ride, that's like a huge pro, right? And like, and he did this trick called the sideboard, which is like it's like a hang five where you get the seat up on the side of you, kind of. And I always thought that was like the craziest trick. I wanted to learn. The first time I saw the picture, I wanted to learn that trick, Yeah. And then I made a comment about it because I posted an old clip of myself, but I tagged him, and then he commented, and like, the 8th grade version of me feels, knowing that R.L. Osborne commented on something I put up, and it's all because this world, like, it's like almost like the multiverse of BMX coming together in one thread now.
Yeah.
Because it's like an 80s pro is talking to a guy that was filming in the mid 2000s, and here we are in the 2022 and we're all coming together. Like, that's amazing.
Yep, and there's entire communities even outside of like the industry and pros side of things where like a lot of the people who are commenting on my videos and stuff are people who are older that are getting back into BMX or got back into it, and they found my stuff just because they were getting back into BMX and they're like, I don't know what geometry is today, so they're typing in like BMX geometry and my videos talking about geometry comes up.
Right, because geometry to them is so different because those bikes were so nuts back then. They were just like squares.
Yep, and a perfect example just of how big this is like I've been posting all of the full runs from this USA BMX contest that I went to, and they get one guy like 700 views, couple guy like 500, then the old guys class is like the most viewed video I've had in the past week and getting over 1,000 views, which is for this kind of thing is a lot more than normal.
Well, you know what, I will say this, and this is just a thought on what you were saying, and this isn't to knock anyone because I don't have anyone specific in mind, but I do think there is this thing where one thing I'll say is like I feel like pros used to be vetted a little bit more. It wasn't just about a trick, let's say. It was definitely about a little bit more of a package, and it is about. It doesn't mean they have to be able to speak, but they need to be like, like Robbie Morales would be one of the greatest examples of this. I mean, like any kid who talks to Robbie at a skate park, when Robbie was a pro and riding professionally, this guy made time for everyone. Thorne, same thing. And those type of dudes that would always sign an autograph, always talk to a kid, always tell them where to get something, that's the people you want repping your sport and your brand, right? Like to me, it's like if I owned a company, I wouldn't want riders that were just good. I would definitely want people who could get out there and mix it up with dudes anywhere and chicks anywhere for that matter, everyone, because you don't want it to be. You want it to be like this inclusive, dope thing that everyone could be a part of, The worst feeling in the world, as anyone knows, is when you roll into a place you've never been before and everyone just kind of looks at you. That's the worst feeling in the world. You just feel so awkward. You almost forget how to drop in. You're like, fuck, I don't even know, man. This is weird, So like you want community and camaraderie, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that you definitely are hitting a nail on the head when it comes to those kinds of things, and it might be more about numbers sometimes today than it is about those things, and it's the world we live in. But I hate to push my code thing again, but you give every rider a code, they put in what, like, if they aren't selling, you're gonna see it. And
no, it makes sense.
If they're not talking to the people like Robbie Morales and telling them where to buy stuff and being cool with everybody, like, it's going to be obvious. I feel like we should talk more about video stuff.
Okay, yeah, sure, no problem.
Give me a crazy story from filming like in the 90s.
In the 90s? Oof.
Or early 2000s.
No, I mean, God, it's so hard. I'm just trying to think. I'm trying to think of a place or something weird that happened because there's been so many. It's like, oh, that's hard.
I know it's really difficult. It's just the thing about me is that I grew up not watching videos or knowing who anyone was. So there's probably a bunch of people who are watching this like screaming at their phones and TVs like, ask him about this video, and I'm like, I don't even know.
I wasn't like that either. And to be honest, one thing that, just on a side note, one thing that happened for me is like after a certain point, I stopped watching other videos. And it was more just because I didn't want to copy shit. Because I did find that, like, if I was influenced by a video or a certain type of song, then I wanted to do that in a video I did, which was like, which is the way you should do things. but it felt weird. Like I was like, oh, I don't want to do a video like the DK guys did. I want to do it like I do. So then I just found myself not watching videos as much because I didn't want to be influenced,
Yeah.
or and so that was a hard thing to kind of get through. But yeah, and then so I'm not one of these people that knows like every video and everything that happened to do, and do it. I know kind of like the major stuff, obviously, and there's things you hear. Everyone's like, oh my god, you gotta see this, and then of course you watch it, But I was never that locked to it, and that's something I think that's a little bit sad too, is that the one thing about with all the online videos is like, I don't, maybe I'm wrong because I could be because I don't see it the same, but I don't know. Is someone gonna click on a saved link from 6 weeks ago, or like that nose wheelie up clip you talked about, right? Like, is someone gonna like 10 years from now go, man, the day I watched that was such a good day, I'm gonna watch that again, the way they watch videos, right? Because I hear from a lot of guys who still watch videos, or I get hit up randomly, hey, what's this song in this video? And then I get also, do you have extra copies of this video? Because I would buy one, because they've worn out their tape and they still want to watch it. And that I do understand, because when I watch the old stuff, I'm brought back to it,
We're probably gonna come to a time where there's a lot of disappointed people, because Instagram, maybe it'll last forever, but chances are Instagram is eventually one day going to go the way of MySpace, and all your stuff's going to be gone, and it's already not, like, it's not a search engine. It's so difficult to find anything because you have to know the thumbnail of it to even like have any idea of how to find it. So like that nose manual clip up the stairs, people are going to have to, like, 10 years from now, if someone remembers that, they're going to be like, oh, I don't even know how to find that.
Right. And that's kind of a bummer, because there is the thing of, you do kind of, if there was something dope you saw in a video, you'll remember the box, and you'll remember what video it was, and you'll even remember the song, and you even kind of get a moment, like you would hear that song on the radio and then remember when someone hit something, like you do that. But that's, I mean, I guess that's just gone too. Like, I think that's kind of a bummer that you lose those moments,
Yeah, it's a interesting. It is a problem, and it's going to be a problem when like these kids get old enough to want to remember those things. They're not probably thinking about it now.
Nope. But it also means if someone creates something memorable now, they can capitalize on that moment, I think.
Which is true. Yeah. It's funny because there's a group of kids local to me that are like, the one brother just turned 16, the other one's like 13 maybe, and there's another buddy who rides. And when they talk about stuff, you can very clearly tell that like they spend their time just scrolling through people's Instagrams, like all the way to the first thing that they post.
Crazy.
And they know like everything. It's so wild.
Yeah, because I don't necessarily have the patience for that, but but it's a different time. It makes sense. I mean, I'll always remember when I first started filming with Anthony Flores and E-Man Manuel Quintera and Boy, two East LA guys here. It was amazing to me that they never saw videos. Like it's not that they never saw it. They had videos on VHS and DVD, but they got to a point where everything was YouTube. If it wasn't on YouTube, they didn't see it.
Yeah.
They didn't see it. I mean, even when we were filming the video, they're like, "Hey, we're gonna put it on YouTube, right?" Because they were like, "That's how we watch it." And I remember these guys would be like riding, and it was so weird to me. Like, I come from a headphone culture, so like they're riding with the phone out, with the speaker playing, and that's just not a thought I had, Like I didn't grow up doing that, so I wouldn't do it. But I would always see Boy, he'd be like, "Yeah, like this," and then go do a trick, and I'd be like, "That's crazy!" Like we all live with like headphones. I'm sure you more headphones because you're a ramp guy too, so like skate park guys generally gonna hit headphones,
Yep. Wow, that's so crazy to think about.
Yeah, it's such a different thing.
It makes me want to push the concept of like, even if you're just posting stuff on Instagram, make a compilation of it and put it on YouTube, because one day you're gonna want to see this stuff again. And if Instagram goes away, or you get hacked, or you forget maybe if you forget your password, you can still find stuff.
Yeah.
But if it goes away, or you get hacked and it's gone, it's just gone. And when you're 40, 50, you might want to remember that stuff.
Yeah, and it will because YouTube and Vital, for that matter, back a while ago, there was these things you had to do. You had to convert videos to FLVs when you
Yeah.
upload them. And yeah, so you know that, but very few people know that. And basically, a lot of that FLV stuff is gone. Like a lot of that stuff's been scrubbed from hard drives and servers and stuff. And I would imagine it sounds insane, but there is going to be a time where MP4s are going to be the same way. You know what I mean? Like, because there's going to be a better compression, and that's going to be the old shitty compression. There'll be a new compression, and then something like YouTube won't even service it. I mean, we're probably a good 20 years from that, but that probably will happen.
Yeah, man, that's so crazy to think about, and I guess that's why I keep everything. Like,
That's good.
Yeah.
Good. I'm trying to re-archive, and I'm trying to give it a little context, but I won't get through everything. I'll get through some of it.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, I feel like YouTube hopefully is big enough that they will keep things.
It should. But they've scrubbed stuff in the past, going back years, but they have scrubbed some older stuff. But that's also same thing, because they just had weird file formats and stuff,
Right, and I can remember when you had to pick a very specific file format to upload to YouTube.
Those things suck. They were so hard to do, because Vital, we had to do that on the back end of Vital. So we learned all about that and then got it going. So that was a big part of the process. It was definitely a learning experience. But it's also cool too, because it makes me understand a little bit better about compression now because of that little introduction. Same way if you've ever shot film, you understand how a camera works so much better if you know film, and then why everything is the way it is. Because otherwise, it doesn't really follow a rhyme or reason if you know nothing about film. It's kind of like, why would they have it like this?
Yeah,
there's probably an easier way to put it up.
Why do you have ISO? Like,
right.
Why can't you just turn it up and turn it all down? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I've got one that'll make you either cringe or just be like, holy crap. I upload to YouTube in ProRes 4K, 60 frames a second.
Do you really?
Every single day. These files...
No, I never really noticed, but now that means if I look at your shit, it's got to be crystal fucking clear.
Oh, I make it so that when you watch, if you put it in 4K and you watch it, it looks like the file on my computer.
That's awesome.
An example, the video going... Oh, that's a bad example because I used my camera. I use my camera for that one, so it's smaller. I use my phone for this one. It's 30 gigabytes. 30 gigabytes is the file size I'm putting into YouTube.
Yo, you're a maniac, dude. I wouldn't want to sit and wait for that to upload.
Well, that's the thing. Got faster internet, so it was like when I made the realization when we got faster internet, it was like, oh, my uploads take 2 minutes now. What if I make the file that much crazier and make the quality that much better?
I mean, for the archiving reason, it's awesome. It definitely means that stuff's going to stay that much longer,
Mm-hmm.
And if anyone wants to rip it for any archiving purposes, then they're at least getting the best version, or a better version than they would have. But yeah.
Yeah, I think it's. Do you ever heard of MKBHD? The YouTube guy who talks about tech and computers and all that stuff. I think he mentioned something about ProRes and uploading in like 8K so that when you watch it in 1080 or 4K, it's that much better.
It definitely is. It's a weird thing because like those. It's a weird thing that like if something only broadcasts in HD, it shouldn't matter, right? Like 4K shouldn't really be better, because it should just lock at HD, but it totally does. It's the same with like when you put pictures on a timeline, right? Like photos are on YouTube or anything are generally going to be seen at like 72 DPI, but like if you put 150 DPI picture in a timeline, even though it fucking makes the timeline run so much slower, the picture is better. You know what I mean? Like, and I hate that, but it is, because if you put a 72 DPI picture in, it looks like shit in comparison.
Well, it's like watching a standard def video versus
Although standard def, like when I look at standard def stuff, all these old clips on my computer, I'm just like, oh, they look so horrible. But then when I see them on my phone, I'm like, oh, they look great. So it's so funny and phones are going to change, right, at some point soon, and that's relatively soon. Phones are going to get crisper and better and higher formats, so it's like that's going to be a big change. Yep.
This is almost all I use anymore.
That's crazy. I believe it though.
Like, just if it's outside, I'm using my phone, and even riding inside and stuff. This is what it is.
No, I don't listen. There's things we do for clients that I am very well aware I could walk in with my phone and do it in 5 minutes, but sometimes we have to do the song and dance with camera equipment and lights just to make them happy. But
you walk in with a phone to a professional gig, and they're gonna be like, "Oh, whoa, hold on. What are you doing?"
They will, but the thing is, somewhere right now is doing that, and everyone's like, "That guy's a genius," or that girl's so avant-garde. Meanwhile, it's just bullshit.
Oh my God. Yeah, I don't even want to get into that side of things. I went to art school. I know it. Man, we're 2 hours into this, and we didn't get the crazy story from the 90s. We need to pick a person.
You know, like that's a really, really hard one.
Who are some of your favorite people to film with throughout the years then?
Okay, that's easier.
Some, not just one, so make it even easier.
Yeah. No, I'll do some. But the interesting thing is, so with that, I just want to say one thing that's crazy about BMX too is like when you meet people, sometimes you only have like these quick interactions with them. Like you go on a trip for a couple of days and you know them, but that's the most time you spend with them, right?
Yeah.
But they live in like 5 states over or another country or whatever, and then in time you realize like holy shit, like you realize like certain people, like I'll say like Jim Reinstra, Jason Enns. These are 2 guys that like if we had like lived closer at different times, I feel like they would have been my best friends. They might not say the same about me, but I feel that way about them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like Brian Castillo was, you know, he was one of my best friends when I moved out here for the longest time, and I still consider him a really, really good friend. We speak. I would say we speak very often, but we speak pretty good, you know. And it's like Mike Escamilla. I should say Escamilla. But he's like Rooftop. He's the best. Like and Rooftop someone early on. I wouldn't say I didn't like him, but I was just like, oh, he would just like drill me about things, and I'd be like, what is this guy talking about? But now he's like, I love the dude. I consider him a friend for life, you know. Like filming wise, and then more recently, that's a hard one. I liked very much. Garrett was so much fun on every trip for so many different reasons. I mean, obviously because he's fucking good, and you just know you're getting the clip in one shot normally, which is like fun to film. But he's fucking hysterical. Like his attitude, the shit he says under his breath, the grimy comments that come out of him. And I knew him when he was a little younger, so he's more of a wise ass. But like that, it just the best, you know. Like these guys are great.
That's super cool to hear.
And like Mira, Mira is an interesting one because Mira I didn't know super well, but I knew him before I worked for Ride, and then I filmed him a few times throughout the course of years. And we did one section for a video called Industry, and then he agreed to be on this video Flip Side that wasn't really supposed to be a video; it was supposed to be a TV show, but that's a longer story. And so he was, it's like unbelievable with him because he's very pinpointed and tactical. He'd be riding. And he's like talking to me through this full face, and he's across the skate park. He's like, all right, I'm going to come back. I'm going to stall that. Then I'm going to foof that. But then I'm going to do the trick over to the left side of the spine. There's a sticker there. Make sure you're right by the green sticker. Like he would like tell you where to be, and you just do it, and he does it. And it's just, you could see the way he always thought. He thought and runs. So like if he was going to try a trick, he'd have to do like, you know, it's like hit the wall trick. You know, like he would tell you like, okay, I'm going to pump 3 times, then do it. But he always had to do it that way, you know? So it was really impressive. And every time was like that. Like, he was just so fucking dialed and nuts, you know? Like, it would never see anything like that ever, you know?
That's incredible. Was it like, is there comparisons between, like, filming Garrett and filming Mira with how good they both are and how quick things would happen?
Huh. That's interesting. You know what? I can honestly say no, other than skill level.
Yeah.
But like they were very different takes on both. You know, Garrett, you just got to be real. You better be on it because Garrett's also like, I'm gonna whip down those stairs, and he actually doesn't give a shit if you're filming it or not. Like he will just whip down the stairs. You know, because I think at the moment he thinks he's doing it, he's doing it. You know.
Yeah.
Whereas like Mira would do this like. They'd be almost like a I'm gonna wipe my hands in the dirt, I'm gonna spin 3 times, then I'm going. Like he'd give you this like almost OCD.
I was just gonna say that. Was he? Yeah. Did he have? And
it probably was just the way he processed it. So it was really, really impressive. Although I would say that Castillo was closer to Mira that way. And very few people I think would ever make this comparison, but I would always compare Castillo to Mira because especially Castillo in his own ramps in his warehouse, he rode the same way Mira did. I mean, it was just all tactical and pinpointed and perfect. And you wouldn't think it, but I think he was always a more shy person. So he wasn't into riding in front of people as much. Whereas like Mira was definitely like an extrovert and he could just kill it in front of a crowd of 10,000, no problem, you know?
Yeah. Was it harder to film with someone like Mira where he's telling you like what he wants when you might have like an idea of what you want?
I think if I met him later in my life, it would have been harder. And then I can say that would 100% been because of my ego, right? But because like one of the first times I went to film him, I was going with like basically Mark Losi was like, hey, I'm going to go do some stuff in Greenville. Do you want to come and get stuff for the next video? And Mira said he was down to do a section. So I was like, hell yeah. We went. But then Mira was like, because Mira was Mira, you know, and even knew him. And like even the way he showed up, it was literally like we were all on Nyquist's mini ramp the first day we were there, and then Mira showed up late because he literally came in like that day on a private jet, like some bullshit like that. like he had to go do some demo or some photo shoot or something. So he like flew in, he came in, rode for like an hour, killed it. Then the next morning he did the crazy tail tap on the ladder, and then flew out for some other demo. Like and all of his section came from that 2 afternoons, and then I had some footage that I got when I saw him at Woodward at a contest, and that was his whole section. So like, wow. and it was a fucking killer section. You know what I mean? Like, could you imagine if the guy actually went a month and tried and went to different places? It would be unbelievable. It would have been unbelievable.
That's like legendary stuff.
He is legendary. There's no part of Mira and legend that don't go together. You know?
Yeah, I listened to that Gangstar song that he used.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, you listen to that and you're like, thank God that Mira used that so that no one can ever use it again, because no one else is eligible to use that song.
You shouldn't use what Mira. You know, the song thing, that's so funny because that's an old video thing, right? Like people used to get real nuts about that. Sorry, my phone's starting to die. So
you're good.
I'm gonna flip some stuff here and put a thing in. It's so funny because like Mira was like people used to get so mad about song stuff, and I don't blame them in a way, but at the same time I also think like, how many years do you give someone, right? Like like Van Holman, no one should ever use that song again, I would say.
The Diary of a Madman.
Yeah, like my personal opinion would be like, no one uses that again. But then when it's like if you're like the third guy in a video of 10 people, do you really own that song forever? You have to have a memorable part for it to be like, right?
Yeah.
But I remember people used to get nuts about that. Plus, sometimes people just have the same ideas, or like legitimately, not everyone's seen every video, so that's the other problem.
Right. That's absolutely true. But when it comes to like the Moment of Truth song, Gangstar, Diary of a Madman, other songs from other legendary videos like that, you can't do that.
No, you shouldn't. But that was a weird thing when it went from like VHSs and DVDs to web, right? Because then suddenly people and web is so different now, because now like Instagram obviously picks up when you use something you legally have the right to.
Right.
For everyone to use anything, it was a free for all. So people just use any song. And think about a kid who's riding now and just thinks some song is awesome. He never saw that Mira video, you know. And then he's like, oh, I'll use this old school hip hop song from this guy named Gangstar. Everyone's gonna think I'm original. Meanwhile, it's like, oh, you're actually poaching from one of the better parts ever made. But, you know. But it's not necessarily someone's fault, you know.
Right, exactly. So do you think that there will ever be a way again, or the BMX will migrate again towards like the longer form things being the majority?
Being the majority, I'm not sure, but I do think it will migrate to that again. You know what I mean? I don't know. I think the majority will always be what we have now, because there'll always be people uploading a ton of shit all the time, right? So like,
That's true.
I think that will always kind of win in sheer numbers. But I do think that it will come back, and not even out of like a wishful place. I just think it makes sense, right? I think at some point a bunch of companies are going to go, hey, why aren't we doing this anymore? This was actually a good way to promote ourselves, you know? And I think they'll find new ways of doing it. And I think that the thing that also will probably be true is, me and you could sit here and speculate all day on what the next thing is, and the way everyone does. And there's people who get paid millions of dollars to try to figure that out, and they don't know what they're talking about. But I think that, like, we don't know what the next platforms are. There might be a new Instagram-esque platform that lends to that type of format somehow, and then everyone's like, or YouTube comes out with a new facility, or a new add-on that's like, whoa, this is how we can make videos again. And I think it'll come like that. It'll be the distribution method, right?
Yeah, it's an interesting
I don't think it'll
concept.
ever be VHS or DVDs again. That's probably great. It'll definitely be a digital format, but what that is another thing.
Yeah, I mean, even just looking at like TikTok, which now Instagram's copied with Reels, YouTube copied with Shorts, which all of them allow you to use certain music. That's interesting. I could see people editing their Instagram reel to a song, then taking the song off, then exporting it and putting it in and bringing the song back in Instagram so they can just be allowed to use it.
I almost did that the other day.
Well, there you go.
So because I thought I was reposting an Ralph Sinisi video.
Yeah.
And I thought, they're definitely gonna flag this. The only good thing about it was the sound quality was so shitty from the VHS that I think that's why it passed through. But I was literally going to try to figure out a way to upload it. I was going to upload it in 3 parts and then do it and then hit the points of the song. So at least it'd been roughly right,
Yeah, and you can even mix it now so that the audio of the song isn't.
Yeah. So I was like excited. I wasn't excited that I was gonna have to do it, but that was my backup plan if it got pulled that day.
Yeah, man, that's funny that you already did it.
But because it's like the music clearance thing was crazy, right? Because like first videos I ever made, you just use whatever. For any brand I made a video, you just did whatever. But for like Ride, we had to clear music, and then that was a fucking nightmare. Like we've had every video had a different process for it, and there was like, and I did some of the contract work on that, and it's like, oh god, it is no fun for anyone. Let's put it that way.
Oh yeah, I mean those rights owners can literally be like, pay us 15 grand or just no, sorry.
Right, exactly. And there's so many other complications because you need both. Well, for like music, when you clear music, you need the actual physical. You need the signature of the person who owns the actual recording, but then you need the signature of the person who owns the rights to that music, which is the written song. So like it gets super funky. So for instance, we did somewhere we did a video. Ride, we used we wanted to use a Cher song. We couldn't get the Cher song, but we found some obscure band that redid the Cher song, but they had the rights to sign it off to us. So for like Curtis Elwell's section in, not In the Life. I can't remember the video. I just posted. Rooftop had the banger section, and then it's like, or no, maybe he didn't. But anyway, that Curtis Elwell was in that video. And we used the Gypsies, Thieves, and something. So it was a Cher song, but redone by someone else. It was the only way we could clear it.
Wow. Have you ever had like a situation where you got like in trouble for using a song after the fact?
I never had, but I can tell you another story. I got a call one time when I was working at Tip. This is funny because FBM kind of already had pulled out of Tip, but we were still selling stock that we had, and they had the frame that had I can't remember which one it was now. Maybe it was Angel Death, but they had the frame that had it was done up like a Jack Daniels sticker. Okay. Jack Daniels' lawyer calls Tip. They have lawyers, obviously, and they're like, "Hey, we're calling from this legal place, and it's come to our attention. You're selling something with our brand identity on it, blah blah blah." And I'm on the phone like, "What the fuck am I gonna do?" And I was just like, well, then I just realized, well, they don't know who they're talking to. So I was just like, yeah, let me check our catalog and see if that's the case, because like we're a distribution, and if that company did it, we'll just cease and desist it right now. We'll just stop selling it. I was like, I don't even think we have that many units on them. And then like meanwhile, I have no idea what they're talking. They're throwing all this shit at me saying they could sue us, and then I just bullshitted them through the call, and I was like, hey guys, listen. I see it right now, and I gave him an actual SKU number on it, and I said, "This is the SKU number." I go, "It looks like we have 3 pieces in there." And I was just making it up, and I was just like, "I'm gonna send this back to them and tell them to credit it for us. And if you want to go after them, I totally understand." And then they're like, "Oh, do you have a phone number for them?" And I'm like, "Fuck, fuck. And I'm like, but we stopped talking to them. I said, I don't even know if they're in business. They were like a little rinky-dink company. I mean, you could look for them, but I'm not sure. And then, I'm not sure what their parent company was. Like, I'm just, and they're like, okay, because this is just some lawyer. They don't know,
Yeah, they don't care.
And people like $200 an hour just fucking talk shit to people and try to get more money. So, but then it worked out to be all right. But that was the closest I ever had. But I never had music issues with anyone because like I said, at Ride, we always did it legally. And then at the companies, we just did whatever. Although hey, here was a fun one. Went down to a Red Bull contest when they did those Red Bull in the ditch they were in Mexico City. It was in Monterrey, Mexico. They did the in the ditch contest, and the craziest shit I ever saw. My videos were being bootlegged. Like that was
and sold.
Yeah, dude. So here's the thing. We hadn't even done the Demolition DVD yet. We had only done VHS, so we were working on the DVD. Because, when DVDs first started, like, people had to author that shit. And when it very first started, I knew nothing about it. So we actually had Joe Simon working on it because he early on knew all that stuff.
Yeah.
So he was working on the authoring. And then I'm in Mexico, and I see the Demolition DVD, and I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm like, I'm so psyched. I buy everything I can. I get Drop the Hammer, a Demolition video, and there was one other that they were selling, some other Ride video, I think. No, maybe it was just Drop the Hammer and Demolition video. And then I was like, I can't even explain how that was like one of the proudest moments of my life to actually see something I did was bootlegged. I felt like I was rich. I'm not going to throw anyone else under the bus, but I'll just say there was another video maker there who was literally yelling. I mean, this was some Mexican lady. I don't know how she got involved in this. I'm sure a kid rode BMX or something, but she just had a blanket and she's just selling these fucking bootleg DVDs, right? And he's yelling at her going, you should give me money. And I'm thinking, what could she give you? Are you fucking nuts? I was like, bro, we don't make a lot of money, but we're making a lot more than they are. Like, let them bootleg this shit all fucking day. Who cares,
Respect the hustle.
Yeah, they're not going to fucking mail order the shit from Dan's. Like, what are you after them for?
Wow, that is so crazy to think about.
Yeah, but I bought him. I was psyched to buy him. I mean, I would have bought more if I could have, because I just thought it was like, fuck, that's sick to get something. I mean, like, because, that felt very legit to me. Like, we're in a position to get bootlegged,
Yeah, it's a legitimizing thing, I guess. Yeah, I guess I've never thought about it that way just because every time I see something like that on the internet, it's somebody uploading somebody else's BMX video trying to get the views. I saw somebody just the other day re-uploading this dude I know from Buffalo's clip where he's doing this super awesome thing where he's practicing his gate sprints for racing, and he set up a block, and he literally had a kicker or quarter set up, and he sprinted and jumped up into the second story of a barn as his like and this person uploaded it on Facebook with no description and was sharing it all over the place. I'm like,
I hate that. I don't mind that people repost things and tag people. I think that's great. But when there's no description and no connection to that person, it's just a bummer, because if nothing else, you got to figure that guy that did it, he would love to see it somewhere else. At least if he got credit for it, you know what I mean? I know some people are like monetizing their reels and stuff, and I think that's a little, that can get a little shady too, because I noticed there was a site the other day that chopped up something I posted this week and reused it, and they tagged us at least, so I was like, and they made it kind of funny, but I was like, oh, that's cool. But I really hate when people post things and don't say who it's from, and I also understand they probably don't know when it's older stuff, but you should at least say tag the person, because someone who's watching you BMX, they will know everything. They'll know what shirt the filmer was wearing. They'll know a bunch of weird shit,
Yeah, and all those repost things, now that you can make money off of reels, it's definitely shady for sure.
Yeah, because I know for a fact there's a couple sites that their whole gig right now is just making money off of clips they're finding from other people, and like, I don't know. For me, that's just not how I want to live my world. You know what I mean?
I get it.
A question I used to get most often back in the day is like, how come I didn't make my own videos? And I always thought, like, if I made my own video, it was weird because not weird, but I would have to pay all the riders. That's how I really thought of it, right? Sold the video, and whatever I made, if I made 10,000 off all the copies, I would feel like I would have to split that up between all the riders if it was from me, if there was no brand behind it, right? But if that's their sponsor's paying them, their sponsor's paying me, and the sponsor keeps the money, I'm that's great. I love that. That's just good for everyone. That's the way it should be. You know what I mean? The personal video thing was never that important to me because same thing. I didn't really want to make money directly off my friends and riders,
Right.
but money with them all day, you know?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And that's, yeah, I was the same way when I made a full length video. I'm like, I don't even know if I want to sell copies of it. Like, I might just give them away because I feel bad making money off of this. But then everybody who was like part of it was like, no, dude, just sell them. Like, right, I got one right here, actually.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but like we premiered, or I had it premiered in an actual movie theater. So like I sold copies to help pay for premiering it in the theater.
Oh, of course, because I was yeah no, and that's the other thing people never understand that like even if you're not a brand, you're spending money to do these things. Like period, it's
Yep.
coming out of pocket. Even if it was just buying the camera, that cost money. You know, back in the day, it was $10,000 hard drive. Now the hard drive's a little cheaper, but it still costed money. You know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you had me thinking when you brought that up how I think there's still like a proportion that has probably stayed similar in like the technology in the highest level of it. Like when you look at like the Mac Pros, how you can spend like 50 grand on these new Mac Pros,
Yeah.
and like the specs on it are still like probably a similar gap between the tech of the computer and the tech of the camera.
Yeah.
It's
It's going to go on forever like that. And I don't think that's on purpose. I think it's just every company scrambling to be the next at the next thing, you know?
mm-hmm.
They also probably have the problem. I would imagine there's like, I have no idea, but I would imagine there's a few codecs out there that no one knows yet because like Sony and Canon can't drop them because they know no one can edit on them for 5 more years. You know,
Oh,
like,
right.
sure they have that, you know, compression codecs and stuff that has got to be because it was always like that, you know?
Oh yeah. Have you ever tried to edit with the HEVC footage from an iPhone
Oh my God. You know,
or drones?
I wish they were clearer about setting your phone up when you first get it so you don't find that out afterwards. But yes, I've had some issue with it.
Well, yeah, when you use those DJI drones, they record in H.265, which is the HEVC, and it
Yep.
is a killer on your computer.
Yeah, it makes total sense because it's just it's like a different language, right? So it's
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but dude, I got the M1 Max now and
Uh-huh.
the MacBook. That thing, I literally did a test on it where I sped up a 5-minute clip on my from my phone. So we're talking HEVC 4K,
yeah.
60
Something.
frames per second. This is nerd stuff for anyone who's still watching, but
Yeah.
you're gonna appreciate this. I sped up this 5-minute clip 10,000% using a physical spinning hard drive too that this is
Wow.
working off of. 10,000%, no dropped frames.
Right. Oh my God, that's crazy. That is definitely nuts. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've had similar experiences. I didn't do tests like that, but that with a SSD drive, like I was on a shoot and the DIT guy was like, "This is gonna take like 25 minutes." I was like, "Well, it's a new computer, it's a new drive. Let's see what happens." And it took 4 minutes, and the guy was like, "What the fuck? That should have been 20 minutes." And I'm like,
Yep.
"Welcome to the future, my friend. High five. Let's get out of here."
That's actually, dude, that's why I upload in ProRes even, because now with the ProRes part of the processors or whatever, my videos, if it's like a 10-minute video, it used to take an hour to export like a ProRes 10-minute video from my phone footage. Now
Yeah.
it takes like 10 minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
It takes longer to export a 2-pass MP4 than a ProRes. Like, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
That M1 thing is no joke. That works. Yeah, because when it first came out, I was like, "Oh yeah, sure, it's gonna be faster." But no, it is.
Are you guys a Mac house?
Yeah, mostly. I mean, yeah. No, actually, I shouldn't say mostly. I don't think there's a PC in this building. Actually, I mean, sometimes we need it for like certain tech things, but we're mostly Macs.
Yeah, man, that's the way to be, especially
Yeah.
with the way they're going. The fans like don't even come on whenever you're doing stuff. It takes a lot, and I've only had my fans start kicking on during exports because it's hotter now.
Oh yeah, I haven't heard that machine go once. since I've gotten it. Yeah, no, and I haven't even really put it to the real test. But it's definitely like it's still like I said. We doing something with like a 3 camera thing, and it was all 4K, and it had no problems. It played real time the whole time editing, and it's like my older but very good laptop just would never do that with 3 feet 4K. No way.
Have to turn the preview resolution down to a quarter, and
Yeah,
then
and even then, this shit don't work. Like it's like old school. Like I'm rendering the timeline just to watch pieces of it and stuff. Yeah.
I dealt with the exact same thing, and then moving to this computer, like it legitimately made it so I can edit when I'm not at home.
Oh,
Like
right.
because I was using, I don't know if you know anything about Hackintoshes.
No,
Uh,
I know they exist, but I don't know much about it.
well, I had like a beast that
Okay.
I made, and I still couldn't like do what I needed to do on it. Then upgrading. Did you get the? Do you have the laptop or the studio?
Laptop.
Gotcha. This they came out with that studio, and it was like, damn.
Yeah, I got the laptop before Studio came out. I think they're considering buying one for some of the general use here, but no, I don't think I'll have that one. Just a laptop for now.
It's enough. It's crazy.
Yeah, yeah, it's like crazy. I mean, even that, like I said, like goes back to pictures. Whenever you got to incorporate photos into something, that can be a nightmare sometimes, and it handles it just fine. So,
Hmm. Yeah, man. Uh, so we've been doing this for 2.5 hours. So
damn,
I think we should do another one day and like have a specific like we're gonna talk about this video and filming for this video.
I'm down. If we talk about if we can figure out what subjects, right? I'll try to be prepared and bring clips.
Yeah, right. Oh, somebody just said I would make less than a 2-minute animation video, render it out in 640 by 480, and it was almost 32 hours. I remember those days.
Yeah, that's 100%. I mean, it's crazy to think all the things we had to do. I mean, I literally had seen Premiere version 2 actually say about a month on a render. What's crazy to me about that still is someone programmed that in, right? Like it basically went to a point where it said about a month. Now, obviously, didn't wait because I would
No.
never want to know if it really went about a month.
Right.
But because it was one of those things where like that's where it started, and then it went down to like 24 hours, and then just walked back. But the fact that it was thought like about a month, like what? Can you imagine somewhere someone just rendered something for a month? I couldn't. I would
Well,
be dead. I would murder myself.
people who are doing the CGI and 3D stuff, they are doing that. They're
Yeah,
doing like
that's true. That's awesome.
days of rendering, like Marvel movies.
To come back and find out something's not right is just I can't have that mental.
That's where they're lucky with CGI stuff is that they do it in passes and that they can cut out certain like so the way that their software works, I think they can like cut out like a certain segment of a file and insert another pass and have it still be I don't know exactly.
Yeah. It's almost like layering, but yeah, that totally makes sense. Yeah, that is how it works, but it's crazy to me.
My craziest one, real quick, for exporting something was when I had the Core 2 Duo MacBook Pro, and I was doing a big project, and I had to use an actual like bare hard drive in one of those bays. And
Yeah.
and so when I would export that, it kept failing, and I couldn't figure out why. And then I caught it one time because I was letting it go overnight, and I caught it do it one time. And it was because the hard drive was overheating. So what I literally had to do was get ice packs and put it underneath the hard drive bay,
No,
and
that
then it
makes
worked.
because remember for a while too they were selling those laptop fan
Yep.
hold, because it would keep your machine cooler or at least keep your machine off the desk so that way it gets a little air underneath it,
Yep.
which totally makes sense. Yeah, that's crazy that you'd have to do that.
And
Oh,
it was like 24, 32 hour long export.
oh, yeah, no, I don't want to see that anymore in my life. If I could go away from that, I'd be happy.
That's why. Well, that's another reason for ProRes is it's less stressful on your system and it won't get as hot as when you're exporting a MP4.
Oh yeah, totally. Because yeah, it works. Yeah, that's totally true.
Anyways, I don't want to keep you any longer. I realize you're still at work, so
Yeah. Actually, I have a little tiny bit more to go tonight. So yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, I'll let you get back to it. So we
Oh, but thank
definitely,
you. It was awesome. I really appreciate this.
yeah, it's been fun, and I'm gonna go. And next time we do another one of these, I'm gonna watch every single Big BMX show that is online before we do it, just so we can talk about it.
Okay, that sounds good. I'll like I have some of those on a hard drive, so we can even
Oh, I
potentially.
meant to ask you that. So that's awesome. We could bring them in.
Yeah, I don't have all of them, but I have a bunch random too. I don't really even have a rhyme or reason, but I definitely have like, like 4 or 5 from the first season ish, which was probably 8 or 9 anyway, and then like I have like 3 or 4 from the second. So I have like random files around, and I definitely have like a couple things I saved. Like I have like because I would have like girls do little intros and stuff.
Oh yeah.
I have all those like green screen shots because I always thought like someday I'm gonna want this for something.
Yeah, and I'm gonna just say the door is always open if you want to make something and I put it in like one of my things. I am so down. I want.
I'm down for that. I'm down for that. I might just maybe I'll just kick you a few clips anyway as I find them. You can, and I'll give you the backstory, and you could put them out.
Yeah, literally anything like
That'd
that.
be a
If
good
you
way of people seeing it.
Yeah, and I'm happy to direct people at what you're doing. And speaking of that, where can people see the things that you've been putting on Instagram recently?
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, it is at Glenn PP Milligan, and that's Glenn with 2 N's, GLENN, double P, and then Milligan. My full name, basically. So if you search Glenn PP Milligan, you should find me.
I got a solution for this. I'm gonna pull it up and throw
A
it on
gr-
the screen real quick. Uh, yeah, it's super awesome stuff that you've been doing. I'm super glad that you're gonna keep at it.
And I am
And
good. Yeah, I'm definitely doing more. I just don't know the frequency, but I definitely want to keep posting more of that stuff. It's been fun, and it's also fun because you reconnect with some people. But it's fun because I'm doing this with you. It's great. It's super. It's great.
right, and if I'm not trying to put you on the spot or anything, but if you
Yeah.
don't want to do the YouTube thing, but you want them on YouTube, send them to me. I would love to post them.
No, I'm 100% down for that. I'm down for sharing it out too because I am serious about doing another Big Big BMX show. I just have to get a couple things locked into place first.
All right,
Need to
well,
need to put together a huge deal.
yeah,
Waiting for that Drake money.
there you go. All right, well, thank you for doing this. I'm gonna end the stream here before we hang up. And
And thank you to anyone who watched.
yes, if you made it this far, let us know how much you want to see the Big Big BMX show again.
Yeah, let me know. DM me if you want it. If I get enough DMs, I will do it quicker than